Hello and welcome back to the Drowsy Scientist, the show where we take the most extraordinary ideas and examine them with the sleepy, curious reverence they quietly demand. Tonight, we are going to wander down a path that might sound impossible, even absurd. We are not just going to look at history, nor merely gaze at distant stars. Instead, we are going to look inward, into ourselves, into the very fabric of who we are. We are going to ask a question that challenges everything we think we know about our origin. What if humans were not simply the product of nature, chance, or evolution alone? What if we were, in fact, the creation of beings from beyond the stars, intelligent architects whose influence shaped our minds, our bodies, and even the course of our civilizations? Tonight, we are going to explore a possibility so vast, so profound, that it turns the story of humanity upside down. Have you ever looked up at the night sky, seen the endless stars, and wondered if we are truly alone? Imagine for a moment that humanity itself is not the result of random evolution, not the outcome of natural processes stretching over billions of years, but rather the deliberate creation of an advanced alien civilization. It is a theory both fascinating and unsettling. And tonight, here on the Drowsy Scientist, we will begin a journey into that possibility. A journey that asks the most daring question: what if aliens created humanity? The idea has haunted philosophers, scientists, and storytellers for centuries. Ancient myths across cultures describe gods descending from the heavens, beings who shaped mankind from clay, from dust, or from the stars themselves. Modern science has often dismissed these tales as metaphor, but what if they were fragments of a truth too strange to accept? Could it be that long before recorded history, long before the first cities rose and the first words were written, humanity's origins were guided by hands not of this earth? Let us start with the obvious. Evolution, as we understand it, is not a straight line. It is a process filled with leaps, gaps, and mysteries. There are moments in the fossil record where change happens faster than expected, where new abilities appear almost overnight on the scale of deep time. Take, for example, the sudden expansion of the human brain. For millions of years, our ancestors had relatively small brains, not so different from apes. And then, in what feels like a blink in geological terms, the brain doubled in size. It was this leap that gave us language, creativity, and the capacity for civilization. Why did it happen? Evolutionary pressure alone cannot fully explain the speed. Could this leap be the result of external influence? Supporters of the ancient astronaut theory suggest that advanced beings may have tinkered with early hominids, perhaps through direct genetic manipulation, or perhaps by guiding natural selection with subtle interventions. Think of it as gardeners tending to a wild forest, pruning some branches, encouraging others, until eventually a new species emerges, Homo sapiens. If true, then the very essence of what makes us human may be alien in origin. Skeptics, of course, raise important objections. They point to DNA evidence showing clear evolutionary links with other primates. They argue that natural processes, while slow, are perfectly capable of producing the complexity we see today. Yet even in genetics, mysteries remain. Why do humans have certain stretches of DNA that seem inactive, sometimes called junk DNA? Could these be remnants of a design we no longer understand, a genetic code written by a civilization far more advanced than our own. Now imagine the psychological impact if this were proven true. Everything we believe about religion, science, and ourselves would shift. For centuries, people have asked, are we children of God or children of nature? What if the answer is neither and both? What if the gods of myth were misunderstood visitors from another world? What if our bodies are nature, but our spark, our intelligence, is the gift or experiment of another species? Across ancient cultures, strange parallels appear. The Sumerians spoke of beings called the Anunnaki, who descended from the heavens and gave humanity knowledge. The Egyptians told of gods who walked among men, teaching agriculture, writing, and law. The Mayans, the Aztecs, and even tribes in Africa and Australia share myths of star people, sky fathers, and celestial teachers. How could civilizations separated by oceans and millennia all describe the same story? Could these myths be cultural memories of real events, events where alien beings shaped our ancestors? Let us not forget the monumental architecture of the ancient world. The Great Pyramids of Giza, aligned with the stars of Orion's belt. The stone city of Puma Punku in Bolivia, with blocks so precisely cut they seem almost machine-made. The Nazca lines of Peru, massive geoglyphs only visible from the sky, depicting animals, humans, and strange figures with what appear to be helmets. Traditional archaeology explains these wonders as products of human ingenuity. Yet some ask, were humans alone capable of such feats thousands of years ago, or were they guided, even instructed, by those who came from the stars? But if aliens created humanity, we must also ask, why? What would drive a species to seed life on another world? The motivations could be endless. Perhaps they sought to create workers, as some myths suggest. Perhaps they saw potential in Earth and wanted to uplift a local species. Perhaps it was scientific curiosity, an experiment to see what kind of intelligence might grow under the conditions of our planet. Or perhaps, more chillingly, humanity was never the goal at all. We may simply be the byproduct of a greater design, pawns in a cosmic game too vast for us to comprehend. This idea, unsettling as it is, changes how we view ourselves. If we were created, then our existence is not an accident, but it may not be divine destiny either. It may be the result of an experiment that could still be ongoing. What if our creators are still watching, hidden among the stars, observing their work, waiting to see how their creation develops? Every technological leap, every war, every act of kindness and cruelty, data points in a grand alien study. Modern UFO sightings add fuel to this possibility. Across the world, people report strange craft, lights moving with impossible speed, objects defying the laws of physics. Governments, once dismissive, now admit that they cannot explain everything. The Pentagon's own reports confirm encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena. Could these be the return of our makers? Or perhaps simply another species curious about us, just as we are curious about them. There is a chilling possibility here. If aliens created us, then they may also control our fate. What if extinction and survival are in their hands, not ours? Just as we experiment on animals in laboratories, what if we are the experiment? Our lives, our history, our very sense of free will, could all be part of something designed long before we existed. And yet within this unsettling thought lies a strange comfort. For if aliens created us, then we are connected to a greater cosmic story. We are not alone. We are part of something vast, something that stretches across galaxies. But let us not get carried away. This is just the beginning. In this series, we will examine evidence from history, archaeology, genetics, and astronomy. We will explore myths and compare them to science. We will question whether humanity's rise was purely natural or guided by intelligence from beyond the stars. Each chapter will bring us closer to an answer, though perhaps not the one we expect. So as you listen, I invite you to imagine. Imagine early humans looking up at the night sky, seeing not gods, but ships. Imagine the builders of the pyramids receiving whispers of knowledge from beings who descended in fire and light. Imagine your very DNA carrying a signature not of Earth, but of another world. It is a story too vast to be proven in one breath, but too compelling to ignore. Here, with the Drowsy Scientist, we begin the journey. A journey through time, myth, and science. A journey that dares to ask, what if aliens created humanity? The first step is taken, the questions are asked, and the answers hidden in the stars may change everything we thought we knew. When we left off, we opened the question, what if aliens created humanity? We spoke of sudden leaps in evolution, of DNA mysteries, and of strange monuments that seem older or more advanced than history can explain. To continue, let us dive deeper into the ancient stories, the myths that form the backbone of our ancestors' understanding of the world. Because if there is a record of alien involvement in human history, it may be hidden not in science alone, but in the myths of gods who came from the sky. Human beings have always been storytellers. Long before writing, long before books or libraries, people gathered around fires and told tales. These stories were not only entertainment, they were the way people explained their world. And across cultures, separated by oceans and mountains, a strange pattern emerges. Again and again, the gods are not described as abstract spirits, but as beings of flesh and blood, beings who descended from the heavens, who walked among men, and who often taught humanity vital skills. Take the Sumerians, one of the oldest civilizations in recorded history, flourishing in Mesopotamia nearly 6,000 years ago. They spoke of the Anunnaki, those who from the heavens came down. According to their texts, these gods descended in great numbers and gave humanity agriculture, law, writing, and knowledge of the stars. The Sumerians did not describe these beings as distant deities, but as powerful figures who could be seen and spoken to. Some even claimed these beings shaped the first humans as workers to serve them. Does this sound like myth or the memory of alien creators? Travel across the desert sands to ancient Egypt, and the pattern continues. Their gods were often depicted with human bodies but animal heads, descending in fiery boats from the sky. The god Osiris was said to have come from beyond, bringing agriculture and civilization. The goddess Isis taught medicine and healing. The god Thoth gave writing and wisdom. These were not mere natural forces. They were instructors, builders, bringers of culture. Could they have been interpreted memories of advanced beings whose technology and appearance were misunderstood? And then we look to Mesoamerica. The Maya told of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, who descended from the sky to teach mathematics, astronomy, and building. The Aztecs worshipped Quetzalcoatl, a god who came down and taught law and art. The Inca told of Viracocha, a mysterious bearded figure who emerged after a great flood to bring civilization. These sky gods all shared the same role. They came, they taught, and then they left, promising to return. Even in remote parts of the world, far from great civilizations, the stories persist. Aboriginal Australians speak of the Wandjina sky beings with large eyes and glowing heads, painted on cave walls tens of thousands of years ago. In Africa, the Dogon tribe of Mali tell of the Nomo, amphibious beings who came from the star Sirius and shared advanced astronomical knowledge. This is a tribe with no telescopes, no instruments, yet their ancient knowledge of Sirius, companion star, invisible to the naked eye, was accurate long before modern science confirmed it. How did they know? Again and again, the myths repeat themselves. Beings descending from the sky, often in fire, in light, or in great ships. Beings who shape mankind, who teach civilization, and who eventually disappear. The question is unavoidable. Are these stories mere imagination? Or are they cultural memories of real encounters with extraterrestrial visitors? Skeptics argue that these are simply metaphors, that gods represent natural forces, sun, rain, fertility, but the details are often too precise, too consistent across continents, to ignore. Why do so many gods come from the stars? Why do they so often bring knowledge far beyond the ability of early humans? And why do so many myths describe them as promising to return? Now let us consider another possibility. If aliens truly influenced early humanity, then perhaps they intentionally spread these stories. Perhaps myth was the way to encode memory. After all, myths survive where facts are lost. Cities fall, books burn, but stories pass from parent to child across millennia. If an advanced species wanted their influence remembered, but not fully understood, myth would be the perfect vessel. But here lies a darker possibility. What if these myths are not benevolent stories of teachers, but the records of domination? The Sumerians said the Anunnaki created humans to be workers. Could humanity's intelligence itself be the product of servitude? Are we free, or are we the descendants of engineered servants, left behind after our masters departed? This leads us to an unsettling thought. If the gods of myth were real, then they were not gods at all. They were aliens, mistaken for divine beings by humans too primitive to know the difference. Imagine an early human looking up and seeing a glowing craft descending from the clouds. To them, it would not be a machine. It would be a god. Imagine beings with technology that could heal sickness, that could create fire at will, that could build massive structures. To early humans, they would not be aliens, they would be gods incarnate. And this raises the next question: where are they now? Did they leave us behind, satisfied with their experiment? Did they vanish because their mission was complete? Or do they still watch, hidden, waiting for the right time to reveal themselves again? The myths often say the gods will return. In Egypt, Osiris promised to come again. In Mesoamerica, Quetzalcoatl said he would one day return from the east. In Christianity, Christ promised to return in the end times. Could all these prophecies be echoes of the same memory, the same event? Could they be whispers of humanity's creators, promising to return once their experiment reaches its conclusion? We stand at a crossroads of interpretation. To the skeptic, myths are stories, nothing more. To the believer, myths are coded history, fragments of truth wrapped in legend. But if aliens truly created humanity, then myths are not just stories. They are the only surviving record of a time when mankind walked with beings from the stars. In the next step of our journey, we will look not only at myths, but at the monuments those myths left behind. Because if the gods truly came down to shape humanity, they may have left behind something more than stories. They may have left stone, structures, and symbols that endure long after their departure. And perhaps hidden in those monuments is the evidence that our creators were real and that they were not of this earth. We ended last time with a thought. If the gods of the myths were not gods at all, but visitors from the stars, then perhaps they left behind more than stories. Words and tales can change across centuries. They can be distorted, forgotten, or reshaped by culture. But stone endures. And around the world, humanity's ancestors built monuments so massive, so mysterious, that they continue to puzzle us today. These monuments may not just be symbols of human ingenuity, but perhaps messages, markers, or even collaborations with those who came from beyond. Let us begin in Egypt, with the Great Pyramid of Giza. Rising nearly 150 meters into the desert sky, it was the tallest man-made structure on Earth for over 3,800 years. Built with millions of limestone blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons, its alignment is astonishingly precise. The Great Pyramid is oriented to the true cardinal directions, with a degree of accuracy modern builders still find difficult without advanced tools. Its interior passages align with key stars in the Orion constellation and the North Star. Ancient Egyptian texts speak of the pharaohs ascending to the heavens through the stairway of Osiris, and some scholars have suggested that the entire pyramid may have functioned as a symbolic launching pad for the soul to return to the stars. But what if it was more than symbolic? What if the pyramid itself was designed in collaboration with those who descended from the sky? Archaeologists argue the pyramids were tombs, yet not a single mummy has ever been found inside the Great Pyramid. Its design does not resemble other tombs, which are filled with inscriptions, offerings, and art. Instead, the interior is bare, precise, almost mechanical in its design. Some researchers believe it may have functioned as a power plant of sorts, harnessing natural energy from the earth. Others argue its precision points to knowledge far beyond what the Egyptians could have possessed at the time. Could it be that the pyramid was a monument built under the guidance, or even direct instruction, of advanced beings? Now let us travel across the ocean to South America. In Bolivia lies Puma Punku, part of the ancient city of Tiwanaku. Here massive stone blocks, some weighing over 100 tons, are cut with precision so fine that even today, with modern tools, recreating them would be a challenge. The blocks are fitted together like puzzle pieces, without mortar, and they interlock in a way that resists earthquakes. The level of geometry and engineering suggests tools and techniques unknown to the people of that era. How could they have achieved such perfection with stone hammers and primitive chisels? Some suggest they did not. Some suggest they had help. Further north in Peru, the Nazca lines stretch across the desert. Giant geoglyphs etched into the earth, depicting animals, plants, and strange humanoid figures, some with what look like helmets. The lines are so vast they can only be fully appreciated from the sky. Why would an ancient people, with no way of flying, create images only visible from above? Were these lines meant as messages to the gods, or were they meant to be seen by those who came from the stars? In Easter Island, the Moai statues stand as silent sentinels, their faces turned toward the horizon. These massive figures, some weighing up to 80 tons, were carved and transporting by a people with limited technology. But what is most intriguing is the legend of the Rapa Nui, who said the statues walked into place. To the modern ear, this sounds impossible. But imagine ancient humans seeing massive objects moved with anti-gravity technology, with sound waves, or with advanced machinery. To them, the statues would indeed seem to walk. And in England, the mysterious Stonehenge rises from the grassy plains. Massive stones arranged in a circle, aligned perfectly with the solstices. Archaeologists debate whether it was a calendar, a temple, or a burial site. But one fact is undeniable. It was built with astronomical precision. The builders understood the movements of the sun and the moon with a sophistication unexpected for their time. Did they discover this knowledge on their own, or was it given to them? Around the globe, these monuments share common features. They are enormous, often beyond the means of the societies that built them. They are aligned with the stars, particularly with constellations like Orion, which appears again and again in myths and monuments. And they endure long after their builders vanished. Could these structures be humanity's first communication towers, not to each other, but to the heavens? Markers saying, "We are here, we remember you, we await your return." Skeptics argue that human determination can explain these feats, that with enough time, labor, and ingenuity, even primitive societies could achieve great things. And indeed, humans are capable of incredible achievements. But when we look at the scale, the precision, and the astronomical knowledge embedded in these monuments, questions remain. How did isolated cultures across continents build structures with the same alignments, the same obsession with the stars, and the same apparent messages to the heavens? Were these coincidences, or the fingerprints of alien creators guiding humanity in its first great works? Let us consider another possibility. What if these monuments were not built for the gods, but with the gods? Imagine an alien civilization working alongside early humans, teaching them to cut stone, to lift blocks, to align with the stars. Imagine the awe of our ancestors as they watched these beings demonstrate technology indistinguishable from magic. The monuments would not just be structures. They would be collaborations, eternal reminders of a partnership between mankind and the stars. And perhaps the monuments themselves are not just reminders. Perhaps they are messages. Carved in stone, aligned with constellations, they may point to where our creators came from. The pyramids point to Orion. The Nazca lines stretch toward the sky. Stonehenge marks the solstices as if to say, "Look to the heavens, there you will find your origin." Could the monuments be a cosmic map guiding us toward our makers? Now pause for a moment. Imagine yourself standing before the Great Pyramid, its stones towering above you. Imagine the desert wind, the silence, the sheer presence of it. Does it feel like just a tomb, or does it feel like a message? A message carved in stone, waiting for us to understand. If aliens created humanity, then these monuments may be the closest thing we have to a written record of their involvement. Not words on paper, which can be lost. Not oral stories, which can be distorted. But stone, massive, enduring, aligned with the stars, pointing us always upward, back to where we came from. In the chapters to come, we will look not only at myths and monuments, but at our very biology. Because if we were created, if aliens shaped humanity, then the evidence may not only be written in stone or told in myths. It may be written in our DNA, in the very code of life itself. And what we discover there may be even more shocking than pyramids or myths. We have looked at myths. We have looked at monuments, but if aliens truly created humanity, then the deepest evidence would not be found in stone or legend. It would be found inside us, hidden in the double helix of our DNA. For within those spirals lies the story of life itself. And some parts of that story remain mysteries that science has not fully explained. DNA is often called the code of life. Every cell in your body carries this code, a blueprint that determines who you are, your hair, your eyes, your height, your health. It is a language of 4 letters, arranged in sequences billions of characters long. Modern science has mapped it with astonishing precision. Yet there are chapters in this code that remain unreadable, silent, mysterious. Scientists once called much of it junk DNA because they could not find its function. But what if it is not junk at all? What if it is a signature, a watermark left by those who shaped us? Consider this. Humans share about 98 to 99% of their DNA with chimpanzees. And yet that small difference has created vast divides: language, art, technology, space travel. A 1% difference separates Shakespeare from a chimpanzee. How could such a small genetic change produce such a massive leap in intelligence? Could it be that this leap was guided, accelerated by deliberate design? Even more curious is the so-called human chromosome 2. Unlike other primates, humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, while apes have 24. How did this happen? Scientists discovered that one of our chromosomes appears to be the result of a fusion between 2 ancestral chromosomes. It is as if 2 separate blueprints were stitched together to form something new. Was this natural? Perhaps. But to some, it looks like engineering. Like someone took the building blocks of life and fused them to create a new species, us. And then there are the endogenous retroviruses, strange fragments of viral DNA embedded within our genome. They are the scars of ancient infections passed down through generations. But some of these viral sequences seem oddly well placed, as if they were inserted intentionally. Could they be markers of genetic modification, tools used by advanced beings to rewrite our DNA? Skeptics argue that evolution explains it all, that small changes over millions of years produced the human mind, language, and culture. But evolution is slow, and its steps are often random. The sudden appearance of modern humans with brains twice the size of their ancestors remains a puzzle. Why us? Why so quickly? And why at all? Evolution does not always favor intelligence. Dinosaurs ruled the Earth for over 150 million years without developing technology. Why did humanity, alone among millions of species, rise to create civilization? Some suggest that intelligence itself may not have been nature's choice. It may have been inserted. Perhaps aliens saw potential in early hominids and decided to accelerate the process. Perhaps they inserted genes for brain growth, for language, for creativity. In other words, they planted the seeds of humanity. Now let us imagine what this would mean. Imagine an advanced civilization with the ability to manipulate DNA as easily as we edit text on a screen. They could design new species, fuse chromosomes, insert abilities. To them, shaping early humans would be as simple as writing software. Perhaps they saw Earth as a fertile laboratory. Perhaps they saw early primates as raw material. And so they began their work, cutting, splicing, inserting, guiding, until one day a new being emerged. A being with the spark of intelligence. A being that looked up at the stars and wondered. This raises another question: are we still being edited? Modern science has discovered strange genetic changes in human populations, some occurring faster than expected. Could there be ongoing influence, hidden hands shaping our future evolution? If our creators are still watching, perhaps they are still guiding, ensuring that we develop in a way that suits their purpose. But here lies the most chilling thought. If aliens created humanity, then they may not just be our ancestors. They may be our owners. Our DNA may not belong to us at all. It may be their property, their design. Just as we patent genetically modified crops, what if humanity itself is a patented species, engineered and owned by those who made us? Yet within this unsettling idea, there is also wonder. Because if our DNA carries the fingerprints of aliens, then we are more than children of Earth. We are children of the stars. Our intelligence, our creativity, our yearning for exploration, all may be the result of a cosmic design. Perhaps we were created not as slaves, but as a bridge between Earth and the stars. A species destined to carry life beyond this planet, to fulfill the purpose for which we were made. Still, the evidence in DNA is not yet conclusive. Scientists continue to search, to map, to decode. Some see only natural processes, others see patterns too precise to ignore. The truth may be hidden deep in the spiral of our chromosomes, waiting for the moment when we are advanced enough to see it clearly. And what then? What happens if we discover undeniable proof that our DNA was engineered? How would humanity react? Some would embrace it, seeing it as confirmation that we are part of a greater universe. Others would reject it, clinging to old beliefs. Some might despair, feeling like nothing more than experiments. And yet, others might rise with new confidence, seeing themselves as chosen, as designed for a purpose greater than they imagined. The DNA puzzle is perhaps the most intimate evidence of alien creation. It is not carved in stone. It is not told in myths. It is written in us, in every cell, in every heartbeat, in every thought. We are the message, the monument, the proof. We are both the experiment and the result. And if we are truly designed, then our destiny may not be ours alone. It may be tied to those who created us and to the stars from which they came. In the chapters to come, we will leave the microscopic and return to the skies. Because if aliens created us, then they may not have disappeared entirely. Across history, across cultures, people have reported strange lights, strange craft, and strange encounters. Could these be our makers, returning to observe their work? Or are they other species, watching us with curiosity or with caution? The DNA puzzle is only the beginning. The sky holds its own mysteries, and as we look upward, we may find that our creators never truly left at all. The myths of the Dogon tribe in Mali, Africa, hold a peculiar detail that has baffled researchers for decades. The Dogon speak of beings called the Nomo, amphibious visitors from the stars, who descended to Earth and shared knowledge of the cosmos. What makes this account particularly strange is their understanding of Sirius B, a dense white dwarf star invisible to the naked eye and unknown to modern astronomy until powerful telescopes confirmed its existence. How could a pre-technological tribe possess such specific astronomical knowledge? Was it inherited from ancient skywatchers, or is there truth to their claims of celestial visitors? This pattern repeats in cultures separated by vast oceans and centuries of time. The Mayans, for example, tied their calendar to precise planetary cycles that continue to astonish modern astronomers with their accuracy. The Sumerians described planets in our solar system long before telescopes existed, even including details about a 12th celestial body, which they believed was home to their gods, the Anunnaki. And in India, ancient Sanskrit texts known as the Vedas contain descriptions of flying machines called vimanas, capable of traversing the sky with apparent ease. Were these simply metaphors, or were they memories of encounters with advanced beings whose technology appeared divine? Critics argue that human imagination is more than capable of inventing such myths. They point out that oral traditions evolve, blending poetic metaphor with symbolism until fact and fiction are inseparable. But supporters of the ancient astronaut hypothesis counter with a pressing question. Why do these stories share recurring motifs, beings from the heavens, sudden gifts of knowledge, and extraordinary technology that echo across continents and millennia? Coincidence is possible, but such global consistency invites further investigation. Science, of course, demands caution, suggesting that aliens had a hand in humanity's creation or development challenges not only biology, but history, anthropology, and philosophy. Still, evidence continues to nudge the edges of conventional explanation. For instance, the sudden Big Bang of human civilization in Mesopotamia, marked by the rapid invention of writing, agriculture, and urban planning, seems unusually abrupt. Did humanity simply cross a threshold of innovation, or was there an external catalyst accelerating this leap forward? In the quiet of the night sky, when we gaze upward and wonder if we are alone, it is tempting to think of ourselves as unique, self-made beings. Yet if ancient stories contain even a fragment of truth, perhaps our origins are entangled with visitors who arrived long before recorded history began. If so, the story of humanity is not one of isolation, but of inheritance, an inheritance we may not yet fully understand. As we progress in this exploration, we will sift through archaeology, mythology, genetics, and even cutting-edge science. Each chapter will bring us closer to a provocative question. Are we truly the sole architects of our destiny, or have we been shaped, quite literally, by hands that came from the stars? And so, as the first chapter closes, imagine the countless generations who looked at the night sky and saw not emptiness, but a reminder, a whisper, that perhaps we were never alone. Perhaps the reason we yearn for the stars is because, in some deep and forgotten way, we came from them. From the earliest moments of recorded history, humanity has been fascinated with the sky. Civilizations gazed upward, wondering if the shimmering lights represented gods, ancestors, or distant homes beyond comprehension. Yet if the theory of alien intervention is true, then the fascination was not mere curiosity. It was memory. The night sky may have been a reminder of where humanity's origins truly lay, hidden in the stars, obscured by time, and reshaped into myth. The ancient Sumerians, often called the world's first civilization, left behind extraordinary texts. These writings tell of the Anunnaki divine beings who descended from the heavens to establish order on earth. Some scholars interpret this as metaphor, poetic descriptions of natural forces or deities. But alternative researchers suggest another possibility. The Anunnaki were not gods at all, but extraterrestrial visitors. They may have intervened in human evolution, granting knowledge, agriculture, and perhaps even genetic modifications. If that were the case, the dawn of civilization was not humanity's independent achievement, but the result of advanced influence. Archaeological records show how sudden certain leaps were. The Sumerians not only invented writing, but also astronomy, mathematics, and complex social organization within a short span of history. Normally, cultural evolution follows a gradual curve, built on slow innovation and trial. Here, however, the rise feels accelerated, as if someone provided a foundation of knowledge. This raises the question: did aliens plant seeds of civilization and then withdraw, watching from afar as humanity expanded? From Mesopotamia, stories spread across cultures. In Mesoamerica, the Mayans and Aztecs described gods descending in fiery craft, teaching mathematics and calendrical systems of shocking precision. In ancient Egypt, deities with animal heads and radiant crowns appeared to humans, often described as arriving from the sky. In Hindu traditions, the gods battled in flying chariots called vimanas, described with detail that resembles advanced aerial technology. Even in the Hebrew Bible, mysterious figures appeared to chosen prophets, surrounded by clouds, fire, and overwhelming sound. Could these recurring motifs be cultural memories of the same phenomenon? The skeptical perspective must also be acknowledged. Human beings are storytellers by nature, weaving explanations for phenomena they do not understand. Lightning becomes the anger of a god. Disease becomes a curse. Cosmic patterns are interpreted as divine messages. From this angle, alien intervention is not required to explain myths. Humanity's imagination is sufficient. Yet the persistence of certain themes across continents and millennia, the descent of beings from the sky, the imparting of wisdom, the creation or modification of humankind, remains striking. Parallel invention of the same myth is less likely than cultural diffusion or shared memory of an extraordinary event. If aliens truly shaped humanity, one must ask, why conceal themselves in the cloak of myths? The answer could lie in control. A population convinced of divine authority is easier to guide. By presenting themselves as gods, advanced beings may have ensured obedience without revealing the full truth of their nature. To ancient humans, the difference between a deity and an alien would have been indistinguishable. The power to heal, to fly, to harness energy beyond fire or water, all of these would have appeared supernatural. What better way to influence the course of civilization than by becoming its gods? Some researchers suggest genetic manipulation was also part of this intervention. Modern genetic studies reveal peculiarities in human DNA, sudden leaps that do not fully align with gradual evolution. While mainstream science explains these as natural mutations, the alien hypothesis proposes direct editing. Advanced beings might have merged their own genetic material with early hominids, creating Homo sapiens not through natural selection alone, but through deliberate design. If true, then every human alive today carries alien heritage within their cells, a legacy hidden in the spiral staircase of DNA. Of course, evidence remains ambiguous. Archaeologists, geneticists, and historians urge caution, warning against imposing science fiction interpretations on incomplete data. Yet the allure of the theory persists because it answers gaps that conventional narratives struggle to fill. Why did civilization emerge so quickly? Why do myths around the world echo each other with uncanny similarity? Why does humanity seem driven to seek the stars, as if compelled to return to a home it cannot remember? The question is not whether aliens shaped every aspect of humanity, but whether their involvement nudged key moments, like a hidden hand steering the course of evolution and culture. If this hypothesis holds, then our species is neither fully independent nor fully dependent. We are collaborators in a cosmic experiment, participants in a story that stretches far beyond Earth. Imagine the perspective of these possible beings. They look down upon a small blue planet, watching as creatures they modified begin to build tools, cities, empires. They observe our wars, our art, our longing for meaning. Perhaps they wonder whether their experiment will succeed, whether humanity will rise to its potential or collapse under its flaws. Perhaps they no longer interfere directly, believing that the test is not whether humans can be guided, but whether we can guide ourselves. This chapter closes with a thought that echoes across time. The myths of gods descending from the sky may not be fables at all, but coded memories of a truth too vast for ancient minds to comprehend. And if those stories are fragments of reality, then humanity has lived in the shadow of its creators for thousands of years, unaware that the myths we dismiss may be the most honest records of our origin. The cradle of human civilization is often described as a miracle of progress. Agriculture, architecture, mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy appeared with remarkable suddenness across different parts of the world. Yet, when examined closely, the pace of these developments and the sophistication of the ideas seem to hint at something more than just gradual human trial and error. Could it be that humanity's earliest civilizations were guided, directly or indirectly, by teachers not of this earth? Let us step into the deserts of Mesopotamia, where the first great cities rose around 6,000 years ago. Sumer, often called the first civilization, produced an array of breakthroughs: written language, complex legal codes, and monumental architecture. The Sumerians claimed that their knowledge was not invented, but given. According to their myths, beings known as the Anunnaki descended from the heavens and imparted wisdom. The cuneiform tablets describe these beings in great detail, attributing to them the establishment of order, kingship, and even agriculture. Mainstream archaeology interprets these stories as symbolic myth. But if humanity had teachers from the stars, might these accounts represent a preserved memory of contact? Now let us shift eastward to the Indus Valley. The civilization that thrived along the rivers of present-day Pakistan and India exhibited advanced urban planning. Cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa had meticulously designed grids, sophisticated drainage systems, and evidence of centralized governance. Even more curious is the near uniformity across settlements separated by great distances. For such coordination to exist in an ancient world without modern communication seems astounding. Could the uniformity of this civilization be the mark of external instruction, a blueprint imposed by a higher intelligence? Crossing into Egypt, the question grows sharper. The pyramids of Giza, towering in geometric precision, are aligned with astronomical bodies in ways that suggest deep knowledge of the heavens. How could an early civilization acquire such advanced mathematical and engineering skills seemingly overnight? Historians point to decades of human labor and incremental learning. Yet even within accepted timelines, the Egyptians mastered feats that modern engineers still puzzle over. If aliens did shape human civilization, the pyramids may not be their home, but their message, a silent signature declaring their hand in our story. Turning to the Americas, we find parallel mysteries. The Olmecs, long before the rise of the Maya and Aztec, carved colossal heads weighing dozens of tons from single blocks of stone. The purpose and method remain elusive. The Maya, inheritors of this cultural legacy, displayed profound astronomical knowledge, accurately predicting eclipses and planetary movements with tools no more advanced than their eyes. Did they develop this entirely on their own, or did they inherit wisdom passed down from a source far older and far stranger? One cannot overlook the Andean cultures. In Peru, the Nazca people etched vast geoglyphs into the desert floor, visible only from the sky. These lines form geometric patterns, animals and figures stretching across miles. To this day, the question lingers: for whom were these massive artworks intended? The local people on the ground could not see their full forms. The best view was from the air. Could this suggest the Nazca lines were messages or markers for aerial visitors, beings who once guided humanity from above? But perhaps the most striking example of potential silent teachers comes from Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey. This archaeological site, buried intentionally around 10,000 years ago, is older than agriculture, older than cities, older than nearly everything we consider civilization. Massive stone pillars arranged in circles are adorned with intricate carvings of animals and symbols. The sheer effort required to construct such a complex site raises troubling questions. How could hunter-gatherers, who supposedly had no permanent settlements, create something so monumental? Unless, of course, they were not entirely alone in their endeavor. In all of these cases, mainstream science emphasizes human ingenuity, resourcefulness, and the natural evolution of society. And indeed, humans are inventive, but there is a pattern, bursts of advancement that seem to leapfrog centuries of expected development. It is almost as if someone lit a torch in the dark, and entire cultures suddenly illuminated pathways far ahead of their time. Let us consider an analogy. If you gave a remote tribe access to modern technology for a short period, say, taught them how to build steel tools or showed them electricity, they would leap centuries ahead compared to their neighboring societies. Over generations, they might not remember the details of their teachers, but the memory would survive in myths, in stories of gods or visitors who came from beyond. Could it be that humanity's myths of star beings, sky gods, and heavenly messengers are faint recollections of such encounters? Skeptics argue that aliens are unnecessary to explain these civilizations. But we must remember, the absence of necessity does not mean the absence of truth. Humanity's story may contain layers yet unseen. If extraterrestrial mentors existed, they might not have appeared as conquerors but as guides, silent teachers nudging us forward, giving just enough knowledge to set us on a path, then retreating into the shadows to let us grow. And yet, this raises another question. If aliens did act as our silent teachers, what was their motive? Did they see in us potential worth nurturing? Were we an experiment, a seed to be cultivated? Or did they have a purpose tied to their own survival, perhaps ensuring that humanity developed in ways useful to them in the future? As civilizations flourished, collapsed, and rose again, the echoes of these ancient lessons persisted. We inherited myths of gods descending from the heavens, of teachers bringing fire, of beings granting wisdom. Whether these were metaphors for human imagination or fragments of alien contact remains uncertain. But one thing is clear. Our ancient ancestors believed they were not alone. They believed their knowledge was a gift, not a creation of their own. And so, humanity's rise was not a solitary journey. Whether by divine inspiration, myth, or extraterrestrial guidance, our civilizations were shaped by silent teachers whose true identity may still lie hidden among the ruins. Yet, as the chapters of history unfold, one must ask, if aliens were truly guiding us, why did they stop? Why did they retreat into myth and memory? Or are they still here, watching from behind the veil of our everyday lives, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves once again? The story of silent teachers opens the door to an unsettling possibility. Humanity is not the author of its own beginnings, but the pupil of a greater intelligence. And as we look back, we may find that their lessons were only the first chapter of a much larger plan. From the smallest seeds buried in the soil to the towering whales of the ocean, the code of life remains the same. 4 letters, adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine, dance in endless sequences to write the script of existence. Humanity, too, is written in this universal alphabet. But here is the puzzle. Why is the code of life so perfectly structured? Why does DNA behave almost like a carefully engineered software program, complete with redundancy, repair mechanisms, and error correction? Scientists have long admired DNA's complexity, but some thinkers push further. They wonder if its perfection suggests deliberate design. Could it be that aliens, long before we existed, wrote this code as a kind of biological operating system? Imagine civilizations so advanced that their laboratories do not build silicon machines but living organisms. For them, DNA would not be a mystery, it would be a tool. The double helix itself is a marvel. Its elegant spiral looks as if it were crafted with aesthetic intention, a symbol that appears almost universally resonant. Cultures separated by oceans have drawn spirals, snakes coiling around staffs, and cosmic patterns echoing DNA's very shape. Coincidence, perhaps, or maybe it is cultural memory of something encoded deep within our species. Now consider this. The probability of DNA forming by pure chance in the early chaos of Earth is astronomically small. Many scientists argue that natural processes over eons could account for it. Yet the odds remain so staggering that alternative theories refuse to die. Directed panspermia, the hypothesis that life was intentionally seeded by an external intelligence, offers a tantalizing answer. According to this theory, DNA is not an accident of chemistry, but a delivery system engineered to thrive across worlds. In 2013, researchers discovered what they called the Sh-Cherbak and Makyukov code within DNA. They argued that certain mathematical structures hidden in genetic code resemble patterns one might expect from intelligent design. Mainstream biology dismissed the claim as speculation, but the thought lingers. If one wanted to leave a message for future civilizations, where better to hide it than in the very code of their bodies? Imagine humanity as a living archive, carrying not just survival instructions, but also encrypted messages from creators beyond the stars. Perhaps we are the message. Perhaps our curiosity, our drive to search the cosmos, was planted in us like a breadcrumb trail leading home. And this raises another question. If aliens designed DNA, did they design it only once, or do they recycle the same code across the universe? That would mean life everywhere, whether strange or familiar, shares a hidden kinship with us. The alien may not be entirely alien. The stranger in the sky might still carry the same molecular signature, the same ancient parentage. But here lies the paradox. If DNA is a program, then who are we? Are we autonomous beings, or only expressions of alien algorithms playing out across time? Some might find this thought terrifying, reducing our individuality to the echoes of a script. Others might find it liberating, for if aliens wrote our code, then surely they believed in our potential. They gave us a chance to evolve, to imagine, to wonder. The deeper scientists probe, the more DNA resists final answers. Its complexity is endless, its beauty undeniable. And yet, it is this very perfection that continues to whisper of a hidden hand. Was our blueprint a cosmic gift, or simply the patient result of nature? The debate continues, but one thing remains certain: DNA holds secrets we have barely begun to decode. As we follow these spirals of speculation, another mystery emerges, one carved not in molecules but in stone. Across Earth, Ancient monuments rise in defiance of time, hinting at knowledge far beyond what their builders should have known. And so we must ask, were these structures too influenced by the same alien architects who may have written our code? The fascination with the stars is as old as humanity itself. For countless generations, our ancestors looked skyward, weaving myths and legends to explain the lights above. But what if those myths were not mere imagination? What if they were encoded memories passed down through oral traditions, describing encounters with beings beyond our world? Across cultures separated by oceans and continents, similarities in stories suggest a universal source. The Dogon people of Mali, for example, told French anthropologists in the 1930s about Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky. They described it as having a hidden companion star, dense and invisible to the naked eye. Modern astronomy later confirmed the existence of Sirius B, a white dwarf. How could a traditional African tribe have known this, unless their knowledge came from a source outside ordinary human observation? The possibility arises that alien visitors not only interacted with early humans, but also imparted fragments of cosmic knowledge. These fragments became myths, legends, and sacred stories. Over time, what may have been literal accounts of extraterrestrial presence were layered with symbolism, reshaped by generations who no longer remembered the original encounters. Ancient India provides another compelling case. Texts like the Mahabharata and Ramayana speak of Vimanas, flying chariots described in astonishing technical detail. These were not simple poetic metaphors. They had weapons, propulsion systems, and even specific maneuvers. Some accounts describe them as capable of traversing both the heavens and oceans, leaving fire and sound in their wake. Skeptics dismiss these descriptions as allegories, yet when read with modern eyes, they resemble advanced aircraft or spacecraft. Could these texts be fragmented memories of alien technology witnessed thousands of years ago? The deeper we explore, the clearer the pattern becomes. Humanity's earliest civilizations often spoke of knowledge being gifted, not discovered. The Sumerians said the gods descended from the heavens to teach writing, agriculture, and governance. The Egyptians credited Thoth with mathematics and astronomy. The Greeks believed Prometheus stole fire from the gods to give to humanity. Every story, in its own way, hints at a moment when human capability leapt forward unnaturally. What if this leap was not an accident of evolution, but the result of intervention? What if aliens seeded ideas in our minds, guided us toward civilization, and ensured we would one day reach for the stars? Yet here lies a paradox. If advanced beings truly created or influenced humanity, why cloak themselves in secrecy? Why veil their actions in myth and symbolism rather than openly declaring their role? Some theorists argue that secrecy was intentional. To reveal themselves fully might have disrupted human development, collapsing fragile societies into chaos or dependence. Instead, they nudged from the shadows, planting seeds of knowledge that would flourish when the time was right. It is also possible that humanity itself was an experiment, an evolving project overseen by beings who watched carefully, intervening only when necessary. This theory reframes history not as random chance, but as purposeful design. We were not merely left to stumble in the dark. We were shaped, molded, and given just enough guidance to survive and grow. But if that is true, then we must ask, what was the goal? Did our creators design us for curiosity, to spread life and intelligence further into the galaxy? Or were we meant to serve some purpose we cannot yet comprehend? The myths, when examined closely, may contain more than clues. They may be coded instructions, waiting for humanity to unlock them. As we move forward, the connections deepen. Ancient structures, myths, and unexplained knowledge all point toward the same conclusion. Something or someone interfered with human destiny. The next step is to explore whether traces of this interference are still visible today, hidden not in ruins or stories, but in ourselves. Because if aliens truly created humanity, then the most important evidence might not be found in stone or text. It might be written directly into our DNA. The sun dipped behind the distant horizon of ancient Mesopotamia, and with it, the golden glow spread across temple stones that had already witnessed millennia of prayers, offerings, and whispered fears. To the common people, the gods were ever present. They thundered in the skies, flooded the rivers, blessed crops, or punished with drought. But to those who built these massive temples, carved tablets with stories of Anunnaki, and etched symbols of beings descending from the stars, the gods were not abstract ideas. They were remembered as figures who walked among humans, tall, commanding, and almost incomprehensible in power. Imagine standing there thousands of years ago, gazing at these figures. Their clothing shone with metallic details, their eyes glowed in the firelight, reflecting intelligence but also distance, as if they were never fully part of Earth. And the most puzzling part was not their appearance, but their knowledge. They taught mathematics before formal writing had developed. They passed down astronomy that mapped planets invisible to the naked eye. They shared agricultural techniques that turned scattered settlements into organized civilizations. If these were not myths, then what were they? The Sumerians claimed their society had been guided, even designed. Humanity, they said, was molded to serve these visitors. The texts suggest humans were not created in a single miraculous act, but rather adjusted, improved, changed, refined until they were suitable to assist. That raises unsettling questions. If ancient tablets tell even fragments of truth, are we the product of natural evolution alone, or did another intelligence accelerate our development? As these ideas swirl, it becomes clear how radical they truly are. Our textbooks describe slow progress across hundreds of thousands of years. We imagine early humans struggling, step by step, with fire, with tools, with survival. Yet the ancient Sumerian stories flip that script. They imply sudden leaps in ability, language, farming, construction, government. It almost reads as though someone pressed fast forward on humanity's growth. Could it be coincidence, or is there another explanation? Archaeologists have found layers of evidence, from perfectly cut stone blocks to inexplicably advanced engineering. But in Mesopotamia, what stands out most is writing. The Sumerians were the first to create a system of written communication, cuneiform. And what they wrote about was not only trade, taxes, or kings. They wrote about beings who descended in fiery chariots, who measured the earth, who ordered temples to be built in their honor. These writings are not hidden away, they are in museums studied by experts, but the interpretations differ. Traditional scholars view them as myths, symbolic tales about gods and kings. Alternative thinkers, however, ask, what if they were eyewitness accounts? Now consider this. If these so-called gods were visitors, perhaps from another star, how did they reach Earth? Rockets, some advanced propulsion system we cannot even imagine. And more importantly, why here, why then? The story of the Anunnaki gives one possible answer: resources. According to some interpretations, these beings required precious materials, gold above all. Gold, after all, has unique properties. It conducts electricity perfectly, resists corrosion, and reflects radiation. It is not just decorative, it is practical, especially for advanced technology. If visitors truly came, they might have seen Earth not as a spiritual destination, but as a supply hub. And humans, perhaps humans were their workforce, refined through trial and error until they were capable of serving. It is a chilling thought, our ancestors not simply worshipping gods, but working for masters. And when we examine myths across the world, the pattern repeats. In South America, legends speak of Viracocha, a god who came from the sky and taught civilization. In Africa, Dogon tribes tell of beings from Sirius who imparted knowledge about the stars. In India, texts describe Vimanas, flying craft that carried deities in dazzling battles across the skies. These are not isolated stories. They echo across continents separated by oceans, carried down through oral traditions and sacred writings. Yet here is the dilemma: if such beings once walked Earth, why are they gone? Did they leave deliberately, or were they forced away? Did they intend for humans to continue alone, or did they abandon their project, expecting it to fail? Some theories suggest they still watch quietly from afar. Others argue their return is inevitable. What makes the Sumerian case particularly haunting is how specific it is. The texts list names, hierarchies, family conflicts among the Anunnaki. This is not vague storytelling, it reads like recorded history. The beings are not all-powerful in the writings. They quarrel, they compete, they suffer loss. They appear strangely human, yet greater in scope. Could it be that humanity mirrors them because we were shaped in their image, quite literally? The story shifts again when we bring in modern science. Geneticists have long studied the human genome, comparing it with that of primates. Our DNA reveals sudden jumps, changes that do not fully fit the slow, steady curve of natural evolution. One of the great mysteries is the sudden emergence of Homo sapiens, with larger brains and complex language, around 200,000 years ago. It is as if something interfered, nudged us forward. Could it have been random mutation, or was it deliberate design? If aliens did play a role, then our concept of origin changes dramatically. We would not be children of Earth alone, but a hybrid of Earth and something beyond. That is both exhilarating and terrifying. It places us in a cosmic context, not as mere inhabitants of a small planet, but as part of a much larger experiment. As we piece together this puzzle, we stand at a crossroads. On one side lies the comfort of conventional history, slow, gradual progress. On the other lies the unsettling possibility that we are not fully the authors of our story. And that possibility invites the next great question: if we were created, What was the ultimate purpose? Were we meant to rise into the stars, or were we simply meant to serve until our usefulness ended? The temples of Mesopotamia remain silent, their stones weathered but enduring. The tablets sit in glass cases, their wedge-shaped marks preserved. They do not answer directly. They only whisper hints. Yet every time someone leans close to study them, the same feeling arises that these are not the ramblings of primitive people. These are the testimonies of a civilization that remembered, with startling clarity, something extraordinary, something that still lingers in our imagination, in our fears, and in the question that drives this entire journey. What if aliens created humanity? The desert winds sweep across the ruins, carrying grains of sand over broken bricks and fallen walls. The voices of the past are faint, but they are not gone. They echo, waiting for those who dare to listen closely. And as we leave Mesopotamia behind, we prepare to trace this mystery further, to Egypt, to India, to the hidden corners of the world where more clues lie waiting. If the alien architects truly intervened in the distant past, then their first and most critical achievement would not have been cities, tools, or even language. It would have been flesh itself, humanity's very body. Our bones, our skin, our minds might carry the fingerprints of a civilization far beyond the stars. In the ruins of forgotten temples, inscriptions describe beings descending from the heavens to shape humans in their likeness. Ancient Mesopotamian tablets call them the Anunnaki, sculptors of mankind from clay mixed with divine essence. In Egypt, sacred texts speak of gods who fashioned humanity with their hands before breathing life into the figures. Could these myths be distorted memories of biological engineering? When modern science analyzes our DNA, it notices strange anomalies. Entire stretches of code look as if they were switched on suddenly, propelling our ancestors far ahead of other primates. Around 200,000 years ago, something extraordinary happened: the emergence of Homo sapiens, carrying a brain 3 times larger than that of our closest relatives. The leap was so abrupt that some researchers whisper it looks less like evolution and more like intervention. Imagine advanced beings arriving on a young Earth, not to terraform landscapes, but to terraform biology. They could have taken early hominids and rewritten their genetic script, carefully inserting traits of intelligence, creativity, and self-awareness. The skulls of our ancestors show sudden changes, an expansion of the cranium, refinement of facial features, and the ability to articulate speech. If this were coincidence, it would be one of the most remarkable coincidences in the history of life. If it were by design, it would mean that every word we speak today is the echo of a choice made in a laboratory we cannot remember. But the story does not end with our bodies. Ancient myths hint that the architects were not satisfied with flesh alone. They gave rules, rituals, and knowledge. Some cultures say they taught agriculture, the taming of fire, and the mapping of the heavens. Others suggest they demanded loyalty, sacrifice, and the construction of monuments as signs of obedience. It is as if we were not simply created, but enrolled into a contract, gifted with power, yet bound to memory. This raises a haunting question: were we an experiment, or were we children? Did these beings intend to create equals who might one day rise to the stars, Or did they fashion servants who would never forget their masters? Throughout the ancient world, we see traces of this duality. In some myths, the gods lift humanity up, sharing light and wisdom. In others, they enslave, demand tribute, and punish disobedience with catastrophic floods or fire from the skies. Such extremes suggest a complex relationship between creator and creation, one that mirrors the very uncertainty we feel today when we look into the night sky and wonder if anyone is watching. If humanity was truly sculpted, then the first architects of flesh remain the greatest mystery of all. Their tools have long since vanished, their laboratories turned to dust. Yet their work walks the earth every day, looking back at itself in the mirror and asking, "Who made me? And why?" The drowsy scientist will continue to explore the possibilities, for if our bodies are evidence of design, then perhaps our future carries the key to finding the designers themselves. For centuries, human beings have marveled at the profound complexity of life. But nowhere is that mystery more concentrated than in the very code that makes us who we are, our DNA. This chapter asks a question that bridges biology and the possibility of extraterrestrial design. Could our genetic blueprint carry hidden signatures, deliberate markers left behind by those who might have engineered us? If aliens were truly the architects of humanity, then the most enduring evidence would not lie in ruins or ancient myths, but inside us, encoded in every single cell. Imagine DNA as a text, a library written with 4 chemical letters, A, T, C, and G. With just these 4 building blocks, life has generated the full spectrum of species on Earth, from the smallest microbes to the vast intelligence of humans. Mainstream science sees this as the product of billions of years of natural evolution, governed by mutation and natural selection. But there is another possibility, one that has gained whispers of attention even among respected scientists. What if DNA is not only a biological code, but also an information system, potentially manipulated by advanced beings who wanted to leave a message? The idea may sound radical, but it is not without precedent. In 2013, a group of theoretical physicists from Kazakhstan proposed that human DNA could contain an intelligent signal. They argued that the genetic code, when analyzed in its entirety, showed patterns too ordered, too precise, to be entirely accidental. The paper was met with skepticism, yet it planted a seed of thought. If aliens wanted to communicate across time and space, embedding information into DNA would be the perfect method. Unlike stone monuments or fragile technology, DNA copies itself, ensures continuity, and persists for billions of years. A message coded into our genes would last as long as humanity itself. So what kinds of signatures are we talking about? Consider the mathematical elegance in the genetic code. Scientists have noted that the structure of codons, the 3-letter sequences that instruct the body how to build proteins, sometimes arranges itself in patterns resembling number systems. For example, the way amino acids are distributed shows symmetry and balance, almost as though following a geometric rule. Some researchers see this as the fingerprint of an intelligent design. Skeptics, however, caution that humans are excellent at finding patterns even where none exist. The debate remains open. Yet the possibility of alien signatures in our DNA aligns intriguingly with myths from ancient civilizations. The Sumerians spoke of gods known as the Anunnaki, beings who fashioned mankind for labor. Egyptian legends mention the god Thoth teaching knowledge, while in India, the Vedas speak of cosmic architects shaping human destiny. If we interpret these tales not as literal gods, but as advanced beings, then their method of creating or enhancing humanity would logically involve direct genetic manipulation. And if they were sophisticated enough to alter DNA, it is not far-fetched to think they might leave behind markers, a cosmic calling card, waiting to be discovered when humanity matured enough to decode it. Some proponents of this theory point to so-called junk DNA. Nearly 98% of our genetic material does not directly code for proteins, and for decades, scientists dismissed it as evolutionary leftovers. But modern research is revealing that this junk may not be junk at all. Some sections regulate gene activity, others may influence development, and still more remain mysterious. Could parts of this unknown DNA actually contain embedded information? Could it be, in essence, an alien instruction manual disguised within biological scaffolding? Think of how we embed watermarks in digital files or Easter eggs in computer code. If humanity were engineered, the designers may have wanted to ensure that when we achieved the right level of scientific sophistication, we would eventually uncover their message. The discovery of such a code would be humanity's greatest revelation, undeniable proof that we are not alone and that our existence was shaped by intelligence beyond Earth's. Critics argue that invoking aliens is unnecessary when natural processes suffice to explain genetic complexity. But even staunch evolutionists admit that the sudden leaps in human development raise questions. How did Homo sapiens, within a relatively short span, achieve abstract thought, language, and technology, while other hominids fell away? Some evolutionary biologists suggest that interbreeding, dietary shifts, or climate pressures accelerated our growth. Others whisper about intervention, not from the environment, but from an external intelligence that rewrote the rules. The tantalizing part is that we may already be on the verge of answering this question. With advancements in genome sequencing, artificial intelligence, and bioinformatics, scientists are beginning to map DNA in ways that could reveal hidden structures or intentional anomalies. If there is indeed a code within the code, the tools of the 21st century may be the very instruments that uncover it. Imagine a computer detecting a repeating mathematical pattern embedded in junk DNA, a sequence that corresponds not to biology, but to prime numbers or even a symbolic message. That would be nothing short of a smoking gun. There are also ethical questions tied to this possibility. If we were designed, who designed us, and why? Were we created as an experiment, as helpers, or as a species meant to one day join a greater cosmic community? Some philosophers even ask, would discovering alien fingerprints in our DNA undermine human identity, or would it elevate us, connecting us to something larger than Earth itself? Religious traditions would also face seismic shifts. For those who believe in divine creation, Alien engineering could be framed not as opposition, but as mechanism. Perhaps the gods of old were aliens, or perhaps aliens were instruments of an even higher intelligence. The lines blur between science, mythology, and faith, weaving together into a tapestry of possibility. One cannot help but remember Arthur C. Clarke's famous idea: any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. To our ancestors, DNA was unknowable, invisible, divine. To us, it is a code we can now read and manipulate. To those who may have created us, it was clay in their hands, a medium to shape life according to their vision. The deeper scientists dig into our genetic makeup, the more questions arise. Why do humans have a chromosome fusion, chromosome 2, that sets us apart from other primates? Why did brain size and capacity expand so quickly compared to evolutionary timelines? Why do certain genetic traits appear to have appeared fully formed rather than gradually developed? Each of these mysteries could be explained by random mutation or by intentional engineering. Picture a moment in the near future when researchers decode a section of DNA and find something that defies all natural explanation. A sequence that spells out universal constants or even a symbolic phrase. At that instant, the debate would end. Humanity would have undeniable proof that it was touched, shaped, or guided by intelligence from beyond, and our world would never be the same again. As we close this chapter, we recognize that DNA is more than just biology. It is the canvas upon which the greatest mystery may be written. If aliens created humanity, the evidence may already be inside us, hidden in plain sight, waiting for curious minds and persistent inquiry to reveal the truth. The question then becomes, if such a code exists, what will it tell us? Will it be a simple signature, a cosmic "we were here," or will it be an instruction manual, a guide for the next step in our evolution, urging us toward the stars? Only time and our relentless search for answers will tell. The question of alien involvement in humanity's origins has always rested on the boundary between possibility and imagination. In earlier chapters, we traced stories from Sumerian tablets, Egyptian hieroglyphs, and myths from around the globe that suggest contact with beings from beyond Earth. Yet, as the story progresses, it becomes clear that mythology alone is not enough. If we want to truly grasp the magnitude of this hypothesis, we need to dive into the deeper waters of genetics, biology, and the ways in which life develops. Human beings are undeniably unique on this planet. We stand upright, we possess complex language, and our brains are far larger relative to body size than those of most other animals. But uniqueness is not proof of intervention. Still, the more one examines our biological makeup, the more oddities begin to surface, oddities that fuel the possibility that an external intelligence may have had a hand in shaping us. Consider our genetic code. DNA is the instruction manual of life, written in a language of 4 letters: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. Every plant, every animal, every bacterium carries this same universal script, but hidden within the human genome are puzzles. For instance, scientists have discovered that a surprisingly large portion of our DNA does not serve any obvious function. They have often referred to it as junk DNA. Yet recent studies suggest that this so-called junk may serve regulatory or structural roles we do not yet fully understand. To some theorists, this mystery DNA could be interpreted as the residue of ancient experiments, fragments of genetic engineering that hint at design. One startling fact is the speed at which Homo sapiens emerged. From primitive hominins who struggled for survival to the sudden rise of anatomically modern humans with advanced language, abstract thought, and the ability to shape civilizations. It all happened in what could be considered the blink of an eye, at least in evolutionary terms. Natural selection is a slow, grinding process, yet the leap from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens was unusually rapid. Could this acceleration have been the result of an external push, a deliberate intervention by advanced beings? There is also the peculiar case of chromosome number 2. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, while our closest relatives, chimpanzees and gorillas, have 24. The difference lies in one fused chromosome. Two ancestral ape chromosomes appear to have merged into one, creating human chromosome 2. This fusion is highly unusual, a kind of genetic anomaly that is rarely seen. To most scientists, this is an evolutionary accident that proved successful. But to those exploring the alien hypothesis, this fusion may represent a signature event, an intentional modification that set humanity on a new trajectory, one that would separate us permanently from our primate cousins. If we imagine for a moment that advanced extraterrestrials were experimenting with early hominins, the fusion of chromosome 2 could be viewed as their most important alteration. It was as if they drew a line in our evolutionary history, marking a new beginning. After this event, humans gained unprecedented cognitive abilities, and not long after, the first sparks of civilization began to appear. But why would aliens care about us at all? If they were truly involved, what was their purpose? The answers are speculative, but several possibilities arise. One theory suggests that humanity was designed as a labor force. Ancient myths, such as those of the Sumerians, describe humans as workers created to serve the gods. Another possibility is that we were created as an experiment, a living project meant to test the potential of intelligence and consciousness. A third, more unsettling idea is that we were designed as part of a long-term plan, perhaps to extend the reach of our creators, to colonize other worlds in their name, or to continue their legacy in ways we cannot yet comprehend. Modern science adds another strange layer to the story: human uniqueness in terms of childbirth. Human babies are unusually helpless at birth compared to other mammals. They require extended care, sometimes for years, before they are capable of surviving on their own. Evolutionarily, this seems disadvantageous, yet it may also reflect a complex brain that could not fully develop inside the womb. Was this fragility an unintended side effect of alien modification? Or was it a necessary cost of creating a species capable of advanced thought? Language is another mystery. Linguists agree that the capacity for complex language is unique to humans, and no other species has developed anything close to it. While animals can communicate, their systems are far simpler. The sudden rise of structured language in humans seems like a revolutionary leap, not a gradual development. If extraterrestrials were guiding humanity, perhaps language was the tool they implanted, a means of ensuring we could pass on knowledge, cooperate in large groups, and eventually build civilizations. Throughout all of this, one cannot ignore the ancient stories of beings descending from the sky. The Dogon tribe of Mali, for example, possessed astronomical knowledge of the Sirius star system long before telescopes existed. They described beings who came from Sirius, beings who taught them about the cosmos. Such stories, scattered across continents and cultures, suggest that early humans may have received help from advanced visitors, visitors who not only tinkered with our biology but also shared fragments of their knowledge, seeding the beginnings of human curiosity and science. Yet, as we delve deeper, we must also consider the counter-arguments. Evolution, though slow, is powerful. Many scientists argue that the appearance of humans is not as sudden as it seems, and that natural processes can account for our traits. The fusion of chromosome 2, for instance, is unusual but not impossible in nature. The burden of proof lies with those who suggest intervention, and so far, the evidence remains circumstantial. Still, the sheer number of coincidences continues to draw attention. Another fascinating angle is the possibility of encoded messages within our DNA. Some researchers, though controversial, have speculated that the genetic code itself could carry patterns that resemble deliberate signals, mathematical structures, or sequences too orderly to be explained by chance. If true, this would mean our very bodies carry a kind of hidden message, a calling card left behind by those who shaped us. Imagine if humanity discovered, buried in the double helix, an unmistakable signature from an alien civilization. The implications would be staggering. In recent decades, advances in technology have allowed us to map the entire human genome. And while we celebrate this as a triumph of science, one cannot help but wonder, what if mapping the genome is not just a scientific achievement, but also the fulfillment of a plan? What if the reason we were designed with such a code was so that, eventually, we would uncover it and realize the truth of our origins? Could the act of decoding DNA be akin to unlocking a message left for us across the millennia? Of course, skeptics argue that such thinking falls into the realm of science fiction. But then again, much of what once seemed like science fiction has eventually become reality. Humans have walked on the moon, split the atom, and harnessed the power of genetics, all within a short span of time. If we are capable of such leaps, perhaps it is not so far-fetched to believe that another intelligence may have set us on this path. And so the story continues. Humanity stands at a crossroads, with one foot in the scientific explanation of evolution and the other in the possibility of alien design. Both paths shape how we see ourselves, how we understand our place in the universe, and how we imagine our future. But there is more to uncover. If extraterrestrials did indeed intervene in human development, the question becomes, did they stop? Or have they been guiding us all along, unseen, watching as their creation grows, stumbles, and reaches for the stars? And if that thread leads us back to the stars, then perhaps the greatest discovery of all is not that aliens created us, but that we have been their legacy all along. The story of humanity may seem simple when told through textbooks. Evolution shaping us over millions of years, random mutations leading to intelligence, and culture blossoming once fire, farming, and language were mastered. But when we begin to peel back the layers, when we question the accepted narrative, we discover that there are mysteries buried beneath the surface, mysteries that cannot easily be dismissed. One of the most provocative questions in this journey is whether human beings were guided, altered, or perhaps even created by an intelligence that did not originate on this earth. Let us pause here and reflect on a troubling thought. Across countless cultures, ancient peoples did not describe themselves as the inventors of knowledge, the creators of language, or the masters of technology. Instead, they insisted again and again that knowledge was gifted. Agriculture, medicine, astronomy, architecture, and even law were said to be handed down by those who came from the stars. Why would so many civilizations, separated by oceans and centuries, repeat the same pattern? Could it be that they were remembering something we have chosen to forget? If aliens truly intervened in our history, their fingerprints would not only appear in myths and legends, they would also be found in our very biology. One of the great puzzles of modern genetics is the sudden leap in brain size and complexity that occurred in early humans. From the relatively modest capacities of our hominid ancestors, something extraordinary happened. In what feels like a blink in evolutionary terms, humans developed language, symbolic thought, and abstract reasoning. Was this leap purely natural selection at work, or was it engineered? Could it have been a deliberate genetic modification, performed by beings with knowledge far beyond our own? Consider the junk DNA mystery. For decades, scientists believed that vast portions of the human genome served no purpose. Today, we are beginning to understand that some of it has regulatory functions, but large stretches still remain baffling. Some researchers have dared to ask, what if this is not junk at all, but a coded message? Could humanity be carrying within its cells a signature left behind by its makers? If aliens did create us, they may not have left us monuments alone. They may have written their presence into the very structure of our being. But of course, skeptics argue that such leaps in thinking are unnecessary. They claim that human intelligence is simply the product of natural evolutionary pressures. Yet even skeptics cannot explain why civilizations across the globe built massive monuments aligned with the stars. From the pyramids of Giza to the step pyramids of Mesoamerica, from Stonehenge to the ancient temples of Angkor, the same pattern emerges. Alignments with Orion, Sirius, the Pleiades. Why were humans so obsessed with the heavens unless they were trying to honor or communicate with those who came from there? As we move deeper into this idea, a haunting question emerges. If aliens did create us, what was their purpose? Were we meant to be caretakers of this world, seated here like gardeners on a distant farm? Or were we designed as something else entirely, workers, servants, perhaps even an experiment? The thought is unsettling, but history has left us clues that cannot be ignored. Many myths describe humans as molded out of clay, shaped by higher powers, and given life only after those powers breathed into them. This imagery is eerily close to genetic engineering or laboratory creation, described in terms accessible to ancient minds. There is also the matter of consciousness. The human mind is not only capable of rational thought, but also imagination, creativity, and profound self-awareness. Did this spark of consciousness come purely by chance, or was it implanted? Some philosophers argue that consciousness itself may be a form of alien technology, an advanced kind of software running on the hardware of our biological brains. If so, then what we think of as our soul might in fact be the gift, or perhaps the tether, of our creators. If we are bold enough to follow this thread, then the story of humanity transforms entirely. We are no longer isolated beings adrift in the cosmos. Instead, we become part of a chain of creation, our existence linked directly to civilizations older and more advanced than we can imagine. This perspective changes everything. It forces us to rethink religion, history, science, and even our place in the universe. And yet, we must also acknowledge the danger of such an idea. If aliens created us, then they still may be watching. They may even still be here. Our myths of gods returning, of sky beings promising to come back, could be more than just metaphor. They could be warnings. Humanity may not be at the top of the hierarchy of intelligence. We might only be one layer in a structure far greater than we can see. The thought is both exhilarating and terrifying, but it pushes us forward. For the true question now is not whether aliens could have created humanity, it is whether we can prove it. Ancient monuments, genetic anomalies, and recurring myths are tantalizing hints. But is there more waiting to be uncovered? And if there is, are we ready to face the truth of what we might discover? Because if we truly are the creation of an alien intelligence, then everything we know about ourselves is only the first chapter of a much larger story. And that story may not have been written by us. The story of humanity's origins has always been entangled with myths of descent, ancestry, and power. In many cultures, there are stories not only of gods, but of kings who descended from the heavens, rulers whose right to govern was tied to their supposed connection to beings beyond the earth. These legends may not simply have been political tools, they might reflect a more literal truth. If ancient extraterrestrial visitors had indeed interacted with our species, it is possible that some lineages were deliberately elevated, their descendants chosen to lead, and that this act shaped the structure of human civilization as we know it. Imagine a scenario in which an alien presence ceded leadership by design. Certain tribes or clans may have been given advanced knowledge of agriculture, astronomy, or warfare. These advantages would have allowed them to dominate their neighbors, establishing dynasties that seemed almost supernatural to those who observed them. Across thousands of years, the remnants of this influence could have persisted in cultural traditions, where rulers are seen as divine or as mediators between humanity and the sky. Take, for example, the pharaohs of ancient Egypt, who were not merely kings but gods on earth, said to embody Horus in life and Osiris in death. Their connection to the stars was reinforced by monumental structures like the pyramids, whose alignment to Orion and Sirius suggested a relationship between the heavens and rulership. If these beliefs originated not solely in imagination, but in direct contact with advanced beings, then the Egyptian monarchy may have been part of a much larger plan. The pyramids, beyond tombs, may have functioned as messages or even technological devices designed to communicate with or honor the beings that once guided them. Similarly, in Mesopotamia, the Sumerian kings were said to have received their authority directly from the gods. Texts describe that kingship descended from the heavens, bestowed upon humans at Eridu, the first city. These records might be interpreted not as symbolic language, but as documentation of alien visitors granting leadership to selected individuals. Such rulers, perhaps chosen for their genetics, intelligence, or loyalty, became the architects of organized civilization. Their laws, like the Code of Hammurabi, emerged with an authority that seemed to transcend human invention, as though whispered by something greater. Across the ocean, in Mesoamerica, rulers of the Maya and Aztec civilizations claimed descent from the gods and justified their rule with ceremonies meant to maintain cosmic balance. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent deity, was not just a god of wind and wisdom, but a bringer of knowledge, often depicted as a teacher who descended from the skies. The mythology is eerily consistent. The ones who governed were chosen not simply by force, but by a sacred connection to a higher, often celestial, order. If we step back and view these patterns together, we see that leadership itself may have been seeded by alien intervention. By granting certain individuals access to advanced ideas, tools, or rituals, extraterrestrial visitors could have indirectly controlled the trajectory of humanity. Instead of ruling us directly, they may have chosen to operate through proxies, kings, emperors, and priestly dynasties, who carried out their vision while believing themselves to be chosen. In this way, control could be maintained without overt domination, a subtle but powerful strategy for guiding the growth of civilization. One might ask, why would advanced beings bother to involve themselves in such a way? Perhaps the answer lies in stability. Humanity, in its early tribal state, was unpredictable, fragmented, and violent. By installing chosen leaders who were respected and even worshipped, extraterrestrials could have ensured that their experiments, whether genetic, cultural, or technological, would survive and flourish. Rulers, believing themselves descended from the stars, may have carried a mission they did not even fully understand, to safeguard knowledge and pass it on, often through sacred rituals, symbols, or monumental architecture. Over time, however, this connection to alien overseers would have weakened. As centuries passed, the direct contact may have ceased, leaving behind only myths, symbols, and the memory of power. Yet the structures of leadership persisted. Kings still claimed divine right. Emperors still styled themselves as sons of heaven. Even in modern monarchies, faint echoes remain, as coronations are laced with sacred rites and the symbolism of divine approval. Perhaps what we see as tradition is, in fact, a residue of a forgotten pact between humanity and beings beyond Earth. Now consider how this possibility reshapes the way we view history. Wars of succession, battles for thrones, the rise and fall of dynasties, all may have been part of a grander experiment, a way to test humanity under varying conditions of power. Did extraterrestrials withdraw their direct involvement once humans proved capable of maintaining order? Or have they never left at all, continuing to guide events from the shadows, ensuring that leaders who emerge are in line with a hidden plan. The idea may seem radical, but when we examine the uncanny similarities across civilizations separated by oceans and millennia, the threads begin to weave into a pattern. The echoes of this influence are not confined to ancient times. Even in modern history, powerful leaders have claimed visions, divine inspiration, or encounters that shaped their paths. Whether these experiences were psychological, spiritual, or something more, they follow the same motif: guidance descending from beyond. If this is more than coincidence, then leadership across history has not simply been human in origin, it has been, at least in part, alien. And so we are left with unsettling questions. Are the systems of governance we live under today, democracies, monarchies, republics, ultimately descended from frameworks imposed long ago by otherworldly visitors? Have we been guided, nudged, and shaped toward outcomes we cannot fully comprehend? And if so, what was the end goal? Was it to prepare us for eventual independence, or to groom us for a role yet to come in a cosmic design? The possibility that aliens created humanity is staggering, but the possibility that they also created the very systems by which we govern ourselves may be even more profound, for it suggests that not only our bodies and cultures, but our politics and power are not entirely our own. They are, in a sense, inherited from elsewhere. And if that is true, then the story of human civilization is not just ours. It is part of something much larger, something that began long before we learned to write, and may continue long after our current empires have faded into dust. Civilizations rise, flourish, and eventually fall, yet the questions about humanity's origin persist like echoes carried through time. If we continue to follow the trail left by our ancestors, we find ourselves staring at one of the most perplexing riddles of all: the sudden emergence of advanced knowledge during eras when human societies were still in their infancy. Consider the ancient Sumerians, often referred to as the world's first true civilization. Within a remarkably short period, they developed a complex written language, established urban centers, organized trade, constructed ziggurats that reached toward the heavens, and created astronomical records that still puzzle modern scientists. The question is not whether they were advanced, but how they became advanced so quickly. Was it human ingenuity alone, or could it have been accelerated by contact with something or someone beyond this world? Their texts, carved onto clay tablets, speak of beings called the Anunnaki. Mainstream historians describe these figures as mythological deities. But what if they were something more? The stories describe them descending from the heavens, teaching agriculture, metallurgy, and even the laws that governed Sumerian society. The intriguing part is that these beings were often described with physical features resembling humans, yet possessing immense power and knowledge far beyond human reach at the time. This theme repeats across cultures. In Mesoamerica, the Mayans spoke of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent deity, who descended to bring wisdom and knowledge. In Egypt, Thoth, the god of wisdom, was credited with teaching writing, medicine, and astronomy. In India, texts describe beings called the Devas, celestial entities who guided human development. When cultures separated by oceans and centuries echo the same story, is it not worth pausing to ask whether they were all pointing toward a shared truth? The knowledge of the stars is perhaps the most puzzling clue. How did the Dogon people of Mali, for example, know of Sirius B, a faint white dwarf star invisible to the naked eye, long before the invention of telescopes? They not only described its existence, but also its orbital pattern around the brighter Sirius A. Modern astronomers confirmed this in the 19th century. Yet the Dogon had preserved this knowledge in their traditions for centuries. Where did they get it? From simple observation, or from visitors who revealed secrets of the cosmos? If extraterrestrials were involved in humanity's development, the transmission of advanced knowledge could have been one of their most significant contributions. Imagine a civilization traveling across space, arriving on Earth not to conquer, but to cultivate intelligence, much like a gardener planting seeds in fertile soil. The seeds, in this case, were mathematics, astronomy, and architecture, the very building blocks of civilization. Humanity, then, may have been gently nudged toward rapid progress. But there is a troubling possibility to consider as well. If knowledge was given, rather than earned, were humans truly in control of their own development? Or were we guided along a path chosen for us without understanding the full picture? Ancient myths often describe not only gifts from the gods, but also punishments, suggesting that our benefactors or overseers may not have always been benevolent. The flood myths, present in nearly every culture, tell of a catastrophic event sent to reset humanity. Was this simply a natural disaster mythologized over time? Or was it an intervention designed to steer human history in a particular direction? We also cannot overlook the mysterious leaps in technology during certain historical periods. The sudden rise of metallurgy, the unexplained precision of megalithic stonework, and the extraordinary alignment of ancient structures with celestial bodies hint at a knowledge base beyond the reach of early societies. Each of these could be seen as breadcrumbs left by advanced teachers, teachers who may not have been entirely human. Of course, skeptics argue that human genius alone is responsible, that necessity drove innovation, and that coincidences explain similarities across cultures. They see no need for extraterrestrials in this story. Yet, the skeptic's view does not erase the patterns. If separate civilizations independently invented writing, astronomy, and monumental architecture, why do their myths so often include beings descending from the sky to deliver wisdom? Why does the same narrative repeat, echoing across deserts, jungles, and mountain ranges? Perhaps the answer lies not in one culture, but in the collective memory of humanity itself. If extraterrestrial beings intervened at different times and places, their presence might have been remembered through myths and gods, their technology misunderstood as divine miracles. Over time, stories blurred into legend, yet fragments of truth remained embedded in the foundation of civilization. If so, then humanity's story is not one of isolated struggle and triumph alone. It is a story of collaboration, intentional or accidental, between humans and beings from beyond our world. And if that is true, then we are not merely the product of our own evolution and creativity. We are the heirs of a legacy far older, far stranger, and perhaps far more dangerous than we can yet imagine. And so, as we trace the echoes of ancient wisdom, we must ask the inevitable question: what was the purpose behind such guidance? Were we nurtured toward progress for our own sake, or shaped into something that serves a grander plan? When we look back across the long span of human history, there are civilizations that loom large in our imagination, not because they thrived forever, but because they fell and left behind riddles that seemed too immense to solve. The Mayans, the Indus Valley people, the builders of Göbekli Tepe, each of these societies flourished, achieved remarkable feats, and then faded, often without leaving behind clear explanations for their decline. To some, these collapses are simply the cycle of human history, but to others, they whisper of something more, a hidden connection, as though these civilizations might have carried alien knowledge that was abruptly withdrawn. Consider the Mayan calendar, famous for its uncanny precision. The Mayans tracked solar years, lunar cycles, even Venus's orbit, with mathematical detail rivaling modern calculations. How could a culture without telescopes achieve such astronomical mastery? Traditional archaeology explains it as careful skywatching over centuries, but believers in extraterrestrial influence suggest otherwise. Perhaps the Mayans had help, access to knowledge that was seeded from beyond. If aliens once intervened in humanity's development, maybe they used civilizations like the Mayans as testing grounds, providing advanced data, and then abruptly pulling away when the experiment reached its end. The same questions haunt the ruins of Mohenjo-daro, one of the crown jewels of the Indus Valley civilization. Streets aligned with near-perfect urban planning, advanced drainage systems, and standardized weights, it was a city centuries ahead of its time. Yet the civilization collapsed suddenly, leaving behind skeletal remains and stories of destruction. Some researchers argue that natural disasters or shifts in rivers explain the fall, but alternative theorists point to something darker: radiation traces in the soil that seem unusual for ancient times. Could Mohenjo-daro have suffered from an alien technology mishap, something akin to a forgotten weapon or a failed experiment? The mainstream view dismisses this, but the questions persist like echoes in the dust. And then there is Göbekli Tepe, a site in modern-day Turkey that has forced historians to rethink everything they thought they knew about human prehistory. Massive stone pillars carved with animals and symbols rise out of the earth, built not by farmers with steady settlements, but by hunter-gatherers nearly 12,000 years ago. How could a nomadic people suddenly produce such monumental architecture? For some, Göbekli Tepe is evidence of an alien intervention at the dawn of civilization. The carvings are said to hold star maps, depictions of constellations that would be inexplicable without advanced astronomy. To believers, this site is a clear marker, a deliberate seed planted by visitors from beyond to accelerate human progress. If we imagine aliens guiding us, it makes sense that they would operate in cycles, intervening, stepping back, watching how we evolve, then intervening again when the time is right. This would explain why civilizations rise with bursts of inexplicable brilliance and then collapse, their advancements outpacing the natural timeline. It is almost as if humanity has been running on borrowed knowledge, progressing in fits and starts under the quiet hand of unseen teachers. But if this is true, why would the aliens let these civilizations collapse? If their goal was to nurture us, why abandon them to ruin? Some theorists argue that the collapses were intentional tests of resilience. Others suggest that humanity was never meant to cling to those lessons forever. The aliens may have wanted to see how much of the knowledge we could preserve on our own, without constant supervision. In this sense, the ruins of lost civilizations become a kind of cosmic classroom, humanity struggling to hold onto teachings it barely understood. Yet, there is also a darker interpretation. What if these collapses were not accidents or withdrawals, but punishments? Perhaps when civilizations misused alien gifts, they were cut off, left to crumble as examples to the rest of humanity. This idea raises unsettling questions. Have we been allowed to rise and fall at the whim of beings far beyond us? Is our history not ours, but theirs? As modern humans, we often look at the ruins of ancient cities with awe, treating them as silent monuments to the ingenuity of our ancestors. But to those who entertain the alien hypothesis, these ruins are not just echoes of human brilliance. They are markers, breadcrumbs left along a trail that leads us to confront a possibility both exhilarating and terrifying: that humanity's greatest achievements were never entirely human at all. The further we go down this path, the more pressing the question becomes. If aliens created us, guided us, and even abandoned us at times, what is their ultimate goal? Are we simply participants in an experiment, or is there something far greater at stake, hidden in the pattern of civilizations rising and falling across the ages? As we move deeper into this exploration, one question inevitably arises. If extraterrestrial beings truly shaped our origins, then why would they do so? What purpose could possibly lie behind the careful crafting of humanity? Throughout history, myths, religions, and philosophies have offered answers. But now we begin to reframe those questions with the lens of possibility, analyzing human behavior, societal development, and even biology to ask not just how, but why. One compelling theory suggests that humanity was engineered as a labor force. This idea surfaces prominently in the Sumerian accounts, where the gods are depicted as requiring workers to tend the earth. If we imagine these gods as extraterrestrial beings, the picture becomes more tangible. Could it be that our intelligence was just enough to follow complex instructions, but limited enough to keep us from questioning the nature of our masters? And if so, did something later happen that broke this intended design, giving us more independence than they anticipated? Another perspective frames humanity not as workers, but as an experiment, biological subjects designed to test adaptability. Perhaps aliens seeded multiple planets with life, measuring which species could evolve in diverse environments. Under this framework, Earth becomes a living laboratory, and humans are not slaves but data points in a grander cosmic study. Our emotions, our social structures, our creativity, even our conflicts could all be part of a monitored progression. Every cultural breakthrough, from fire to flight, would not be accidental, but expected variables in an ongoing experiment. But there is also a third possibility, one both more unsettling and strangely comforting. Some researchers speculate that aliens might have created us not for exploitation, but for preservation. In this vision, our creators were a dying civilization, desperately seeking continuity. By shaping humanity, they implanted fragments of themselves into our DNA, ensuring that their legacy would survive even as their own species faded into extinction. This would mean that our drive for exploration, our yearning for the stars, and our unshakable curiosity are not simply human traits. They are inherited memories of another race's ambition. These possibilities naturally led us to consider the structure of human society itself. From the very beginning, humans have clustered into tribes, nations, and civilizations, guided by systems of hierarchy and leadership. Were these behaviors natural outcomes of evolution, or were they programmed into us? Our tendency to organize, to worship, to follow, and sometimes to fight could be echoes of an initial design meant to control or direct our collective energy. When we see patterns of obedience across ancient civilizations, monarchs treated as divine, priests acting as intermediaries to the gods, perhaps these were not just cultural inventions, but the continuation of a pattern seeded by beings that required order to maintain their influence. Religion becomes a central piece of this discussion. Nearly every major faith introduces the idea of humans being chosen, crafted, or watched over by higher beings. Some describe gods descending from the sky, others speak of divine messengers, and still others describe catastrophic punishments when humanity disobeyed. These stories, when stripped of metaphor, sound eerily like interactions between humans and advanced beings enforcing their authority. If our creators wished for loyalty, embedding themselves into our belief systems was the most effective method. After all, control rooted in faith requires no visible chains. Yet we must also acknowledge the human spirit, its resilience, independence, and rebellion. If we were meant to be servants, then our endless quest for knowledge seems to contradict that original purpose. Was this curiosity a mistake, or was it the very point of our creation, designed to push us toward self-sufficiency? Perhaps our alien architects wanted us to surpass them, to evolve beyond their limits, and in that sense, our growing independence is not defiance but fulfillment of their deepest intentions. Consider how far we have come. From fragile creatures barely surviving in caves, we now manipulate genes, map the cosmos, and design artificial intelligence. This trajectory is not ordinary, it is explosive. If natural evolution alone guided us, our development might have been slower, less radical. Instead, humanity progresses in leaps, as if we are rushing toward a predetermined destination. Could this be evidence of a built-in roadmap, a code within our DNA pushing us toward the stars? If so, then the ultimate purpose of our creation is not to serve or to remain tethered to Earth. It is to ascend. But if that is true, then one haunting question remains: are we being watched? An experiment without observation is meaningless. Some UFO reports, abduction stories, and ancient accounts all suggest the possibility that our creators never truly left. Maybe they monitor from a distance, ensuring the experiment stays on course. Maybe their subtle presence guides moments of sudden inspiration in science, art, and philosophy. Or perhaps their absence is intentional, a test to see if we can navigate our destiny without interference. The concept of free will becomes critical here. If we were created by aliens, do we truly have autonomy, or are we following a path set long before us? On one hand, our choices feel genuine. On the other, history often bends in ways that appear strangely inevitable. Civilizations rise and fall, but progress continues. Wars devastate, yet new technologies emerge. Humans destroy, but also rebuild stronger. It is almost as if failure itself has been accounted for in the blueprint. In the end, the question of why aliens might have created us cannot be answered with certainty, but exploring these possibilities reshapes how we see ourselves. Are we slaves, experiments, or heirs? Or could we be all three at once? Perhaps the ultimate truth is that our creators left us with enough ambiguity to drive us forward, to question, to search, and to keep reaching beyond the limits of our world. What happens when our myths, our religions, and even our histories begin to echo with a strange, almost alien familiarity? Could it be coincidence, or is there a deeper truth hidden within the stories that humanity has carried for thousands of years? As we move further along this investigation, the evidence seems to weave together threads of legend and fact, faith and science, mystery and possibility. And the question grows louder: were the gods we once worshipped actually visitors from another world? Take, for example, the ancient Mesopotamian myths of the Anunnaki. These beings were described not as invisible spirits, but as figures with presence, power, and purpose. They were said to descend from the heavens, to walk among humans, to grant knowledge, and to demand loyalty. To many, these myths might appear as primitive imagination. But to others, they represent accounts of encounters with highly advanced beings who were mistaken for gods. If these stories are retellings of real events, then perhaps what we call myth is actually history. Consider also the Greek pantheon. Zeus, Poseidon, Athene, and others, beings of immense power, living in the sky or descending to earth. What if these tales are not pure fiction, but memories of interactions with superior entities whose technologies looked like divine miracles? A spacecraft could easily be seen as a flying chariot of fire. Advanced weaponry might appear to ancient eyes as thunderbolts. Could it be that our ancestors, without the vocabulary of science, translated technology into theology? Religious texts provide further fuel for this speculation. The book of Ezekiel describes a vision of a wheel within a wheel, surrounded by fire and lightning, carried by beings that shone like burnished metal. Some scholars interpret this as a metaphorical spiritual vision, but others see in it a description of a flying craft, perhaps even a spacecraft. Similarly, the ancient Indian Vedic texts speak of vimanas, flying chariots that could traverse the skies and even the stars. These accounts seem oddly specific, filled with details of speed, design, and even battle capabilities. Were these the vehicles of the gods or the aircraft of beings from another planet? Skeptics argue that mythology should remain in the realm of symbolism, not literal history. Yet the similarities across cultures are hard to ignore. From Sumer to Egypt, from Greece to India, from Mesoamerica to Africa, stories abound of beings descending from the skies, imparting knowledge and shaping civilizations. Did all these societies coincidentally create the same story, or were they all remembering the same visitors? The implications are staggering. If myths are in fact records, then humanity's history is entwined with forces beyond our world. It would mean that our religious structures, our systems of worship, and even our notions of morality may have been heavily influenced or even implanted by extraterrestrial intervention. The gods we praised might have been guides, teachers, or rulers from the stars. This does not mean that spirituality is false, but rather that what we interpreted as divine may have been far more literal than we believed. But let us pause and reflect on what this would mean for human identity. If our myths are echoes of alien encounters, then humanity has been shaped not only by biology and environment, but by contact with intelligence that predates our civilizations. It reframes questions about destiny. Did these beings intend for us to advance, to grow, and to build societies modeled after their own? Or were we simply pawns in a larger experiment, created, observed, and perhaps abandoned? One cannot ignore the possibility that these stories also carry warnings. Many myths speak of gods who punished, destroyed, or demanded sacrifices. Could these be dramatizations of encounters gone wrong, where humans faced consequences for disobedience? If so, then the myths might be humanity's attempt to preserve cautionary tales about engaging with beings of immense power. And then, there are the mysteries that remain unsolved. The construction of the Great Pyramids, the alignment of Stonehenge, the Nazca lines stretching across the desert, monuments of incredible precision and scale. Mainstream archaeology attributes them to human ingenuity, persistence, and primitive tools. But alternative theories suggest they may have been created under guidance, perhaps even direct assistance, from visitors whose knowledge far exceeded our own. Could these structures have been both temples and markers, signals for the gods, or for anyone returning from the skies? As we move deeper into these questions, the line between myth and history blurs. And within this blur lies the heart of our investigation, the possibility that humanity's greatest stories are not inventions, but memories. Memories of creators, teachers, and rulers who did not emerge from Earth, but from the stars. The evidence is not definitive, but the patterns are undeniable. And if these patterns are true, then our search for identity, purpose, and belonging must expand beyond Earth itself. We may not be children of the soil alone, but children of the stars, guided, sometimes gently, sometimes forcefully, by those who walked among us long before we had the words to describe them. But what if their influence has never truly ended? What if those same beings still watch us, still interact with us, still shape the course of our history in ways we do not yet fully perceive? The myths of yesterday may still be the reality of today, hidden in plain sight, awaiting discovery. And so the journey continues as we follow the trail from mythology into the modern age, where encounters are no longer carved into stone tablets or sung in hymns, but captured in reports, sightings, and whispers of contact. For centuries, human beings have dreamed of flying. From the wings of Icarus in Greek mythology to the visionaries of the Renaissance sketching strange flying machines, the skies have always captured our imagination. But what if this fascination with flight was not born from our creativity alone? What if it was seeded by something older, something not of this earth? In many ancient civilizations, stories emerge of beings who descended from the heavens. These beings were often described as shining, winged, or traveling in fiery chariots. To modern eyes, these descriptions may sound poetic, but what if they are not metaphors at all? What if they are imperfect human attempts to describe advanced flying technology witnessed thousands of years ago? Consider the Nazca lines in Peru, etched into the desert floor around 2,000 years ago. Massive shapes of animals, plants, and strange humanoid figures can only truly be appreciated from the sky. But who was meant to see them? The people who made them had no balloons, planes, or satellites. To them, the skies were unreachable. Yet the drawings persist, as if they were made for the eyes of someone flying overhead. Could it be that these lines were messages, crafted for alien visitors who once descended from the heavens? And then there is the Vimana, ancient flying chariots described in Indian texts. These machines were said to soar across the skies, to be powered by engines that hummed like thunder, and to carry gods into battle. Were these gods truly divine beings, or could they have been alien travelers whose technology was misinterpreted as godlike? If humanity saw a machine when it had no word for machine, would it not instead call it divine? Even in Egypt, the mystery deepens. Within the temple of Seti at Abydos, carvings have been found that appear to resemble helicopters, airplanes, and even spacecraft. Scholars often dismiss these images as coincidences or as overlapping hieroglyphs. But if they are coincidences, why do they look so precise, so eerily modern? Could ancient Egyptians have glimpsed flying machines in the skies above their deserts? Some researchers argue that humanity's obsession with wings, feathers, and gods of the sky is no accident. They suggest it is a memory buried deep in our collective psyche, a distant echo of an encounter long ago. Imagine early humans watching alien craft streak across the skies, luminous, roaring, unlike anything they had ever seen. To them, it would have been magic. To us, it would be technology. But the question remains, why would aliens want us to remember flight? Was it a gift, an inspiration to push our minds beyond the ground we walked on? Or was it a subtle way of shaping our evolution, steering us toward becoming a species capable of reaching the stars ourselves? Fast forward to modern history. When the Wright brothers finally took off in 1903, humanity crossed a threshold. Within just 66 years, we went from rickety wooden planes to landing on the moon. Such rapid progress has never been seen before in our history. Some say it is proof of human ingenuity. Others whisper that perhaps we had unseen help, small nudges, invisible hands guiding us toward the skies, as if someone wanted us to evolve into a spacefaring civilization. And then there are the legends of abductions. Many people across the world, regardless of culture or geography, describe being lifted into the air by beams of light, taken into ships, and shown glimpses of technology that defies belief. While skeptics dismiss these accounts, it is striking how similar the stories are. Could these modern encounters be connected to the same beings our ancestors once drew in stone and worshipped as gods? The echoes of ancient flight seem to follow us. From the cave paintings of strange winged figures to medieval manuscripts filled with fiery wheels in the sky, we cannot escape the image of beings who come from above. Perhaps it is not just myth. Perhaps it is history, hidden, distorted, and waiting to be understood. If aliens created humanity, maybe they did not just shape our biology. Maybe they planted dreams within us, dreams of wings, of stars, of reaching beyond our world. Dreams that would eventually push us to create planes, rockets, and space stations. Dreams that might one day bring us face to face with our makers once again. And as we look to the heavens, building spacecraft and probing the edge of our solar system, we must wonder, are we chasing them? Or are they waiting for us to finally fly high enough to return home? The story of flight may not be ours alone. It may be the continuation of a journey that began long before humanity, a journey seeded by those who came from the stars. And if that is true, then our skies have never been empty. They have always carried the shadows of our creators, watching, waiting, and perhaps guiding us toward the destiny they designed. If ancient myths and the stories of flight hint at an alien presence, then perhaps the most intimate evidence lies not in stone or sky, but within ourselves, our very DNA. Every cell in the human body carries a blueprint, a set of instructions that defines how we grow, move, and think. But when scientists began decoding the human genome, they encountered mysteries that have yet to be fully explained. Consider the astonishing complexity of the human genome. There are sections that appear to have no evolutionary explanation, sequences that do not match any known terrestrial life forms. These mysterious stretches, often called junk DNA by mainstream science, may be anything but useless. Some researchers speculate that these regions could be remnants of advanced genetic engineering, an intentional design embedded by beings who understood biology far beyond our current knowledge. If this were true, then our very cells carry the fingerprints of our creators. Even more striking is the apparent jump in cognitive ability. Human intelligence, language, and creativity seem to have emerged almost suddenly in evolutionary terms. Fossil evidence shows anatomically modern humans appearing tens of thousands of years ago, but the explosion of symbolic thought, art, and culture follows soon after. How did our species acquire this sudden capacity for abstract thinking, for language, for music and storytelling? Could it have been naturally selected over hundreds of thousands of years, or might it have been accelerated by intervention, an injection of knowledge and cognitive ability from entities far older and wiser than ourselves? There are also genetic anomalies that puzzle scientists. Humans possess certain traits that appear unique among primates: bipedal locomotion, advanced tool use, and extraordinary memory. While evolution offers explanations, it cannot fully account for the abruptness and scale of these changes. If aliens had a purpose in creating humanity, perhaps they encoded these traits intentionally, ensuring that we would develop the intelligence, dexterity, and adaptability necessary to survive and eventually reach the stars. Some theories even suggest that our DNA contains a form of communication, patterns, sequences, or markers that could only have meaning when understood in the context of a larger cosmic design. These sequences may encode instructions, warnings, or knowledge intended to awaken at the right time in human history. Could it be that hidden within every cell is a message from our creators, waiting for us to discover it? Consider the evidence from human anomalies and mutations. Some people are born with abilities that seem extraordinary: perfect pitch, photographic memory, or incredible mathematical aptitude. While science attributes these to random genetic variation, an alternative view posits that they could be expressions of a latent potential embedded within us from the beginning. A potential designed by those who first shaped our genetic code. A potential meant to be unlocked when humanity reached a certain stage of technological and cultural development. And what about the similarities across species? Humans share large portions of DNA with chimpanzees, yet the differences are profound, particularly in the regions linked to cognition. If extraterrestrial intervention played a role, perhaps our creators experimented selectively, combining elements of existing life with enhancements of their own design. This would explain both the similarities and the sudden leaps in complexity that define our species. The implications of this possibility are profound. If our DNA is more than a product of evolution, if it is a message, a blueprint, and a design, then our understanding of identity, purpose, and potential changes dramatically. We are no longer merely the result of chance. We are the outcome of a deliberate process, a collaboration between our planet's life and intelligence from beyond the stars. Yet with this revelation comes a question that cannot be ignored. If aliens created us, why remain hidden? Why leave only subtle traces, encoded in myths, in DNA, and in the mysteries of human history? Some speculate it is a matter of timing. Perhaps our creators wanted us to develop independently, to evolve beyond dependence, and to reach a level of maturity where we could understand ourselves and them without interference. Others argue it could be a test, to see if we can unlock our genetic secrets, harness our potential, and ascend to a greater destiny without direct guidance. In this light, human curiosity, innovation, and exploration are not mere accidents. They are intrinsic to our design. The drive to ask questions, to look to the stars, and to seek meaning may have been embedded intentionally, guiding us toward a future that only our creators could foresee. As we stand at the precipice of genetic research, artificial intelligence, and space exploration, it is worth asking, are we finally beginning to understand the instructions left within us? Could the answers to the greatest mysteries of human existence be lying dormant, waiting for the moment when we are ready to interpret them? The human body is more than a vessel, it is a repository of knowledge. Our DNA is more than a blueprint, it is a map. And if aliens truly created humanity, then we are not just explorers of our planet or the stars. We are explorers of ourselves, tracing the patterns of creation that link us to something far greater than our own imagination. If our DNA may carry the echoes of extraterrestrial design, then it is reasonable to ask whether our very consciousness has been shaped by forces beyond Earth. The human mind, with its capacity for abstract thought, imagination, intuition, and self-reflection, is unlike that of any other species on this planet. Could it be that our creators not only built our physical forms, but also engineered the architecture of our minds to prepare us for something far greater than mere survival? Consider dreams. Since the dawn of humanity, dreams have fascinated cultures across the globe. Some interpret them as messages from gods, ancestors, or the universe itself. Many dreams are inexplicably vivid, filled with symbols, knowledge, or insights that cannot be traced to daily experiences. Could dreams be a form of communication, an interface embedded within human consciousness by our creators? Perhaps our subconscious is designed to process information beyond our immediate perception, a tool left by beings who understand the complexity of thought far better than we do. Intuition is another area of intrigue. Humans often make decisions in an instant without conscious reasoning, guided by what we call gut feelings. While psychologists explain this as an accumulation of experience and pattern recognition, the sudden emergence of intuition in early humans seems extraordinary. Could it have been implanted, a mental shortcut given by those who designed us, allowing us to respond to complex situations in ways we cannot fully explain? If intelligence was a gift, then intuition may have been the mechanism to nurture it, helping early humans survive, innovate, and evolve beyond simple instinct. Many ancient cultures speak of altered states of consciousness, meditation, trance, and ritual as means of connecting to higher powers. Shamanic practices, for example, often describe journeys to other realms, encounters with strange beings, and reception of knowledge beyond human comprehension. Modern neuroscientists have documented these states as neurological phenomena, yet the consistency of these experiences across time and geography is remarkable. Could it be that our brains were engineered to access dimensions of reality that humans alone would never discover through logic or observation? Consider the sudden bursts of genius throughout history. Leonardo da Vinci, Nikola Tesla, Marie Curie, and countless others whose discoveries arrived seemingly out of nowhere. Some call it talent, others call it inspiration. But what if these moments were awakenings, triggers that allowed humans to access latent potential embedded in our consciousness? Perhaps the minds of certain individuals are more receptive to a genetic or psychological blueprint left by our creators. Through them, the alien influence continues to manifest in the world, shaping our technology, philosophy, and understanding of the universe. Even language itself may carry traces of design. Humans are unique in their capacity for symbolic thought, capable of creating and interpreting complex language systems. Could the structure of language, its universality and subtle similarities across cultures, be a reflection of a mind designed to communicate not just with fellow humans, but eventually with the universe itself? If our creators wanted us to evolve toward exploration, understanding, and problem-solving, they may have encoded the capacity for abstract communication directly into our cognition. Paranormal experiences, often dismissed by skeptics, might also be examined under this lens. Reports of telepathy, precognition, and encounters with non-human intelligences have existed across cultures and millennia. While conventional science struggles to explain them, a more speculative perspective suggests that humans may possess hidden faculties, triggered under extraordinary circumstances. Could these faculties be remnants of alien intervention, tools left for survival, guidance, or perhaps even for eventual contact? If consciousness itself bears the mark of extraterrestrial design, then human development is not just biological, but cognitive and spiritual as well. We are not merely evolving as creatures of flesh and instinct. We are evolving as minds capable of perceiving dimensions, patterns, and truths that transcend ordinary reality. Perhaps our relentless curiosity, creativity, and moral reasoning are part of a carefully engineered plan, nudging humanity toward a destiny we are only beginning to glimpse. The most unsettling question remains: if our minds carry the imprint of alien intelligence, how much of what we perceive as free will is truly ours? Are our thoughts, dreams, and decisions entirely our own, or are they guided by subtle frameworks planted millennia ago? And if these frameworks exist, what happens when humanity reaches a level of consciousness capable of interpreting them fully? If human consciousness may carry the fingerprints of extraterrestrial design, then perhaps our societies, cultures, and civilizations are also part of a grander plan. History shows a pattern that is difficult to ignore. Civilizations rise, achieve unprecedented advancements, and occasionally collapse, only for humanity to recover and continue advancing. Could it be that our social evolution is not entirely organic, but guided by a subtle, unseen hand? Take ancient Egypt, for example. The precision of the pyramids, the sophistication of their mathematics, and the alignment of their monuments with celestial bodies suggest more than mere coincidence. Scholars argue that the Egyptians were meticulous observers of the heavens, and certainly they were, but some alignments are so precise that they seem almost engineered to convey messages or encode knowledge. If aliens influenced human development, the Egyptians may have been guided to create structures that served both practical and symbolic purposes, a way to embed knowledge into human civilization itself. The same principle appears in Mesopotamia. The Sumerians invented writing, codified laws, and created complex city-states almost overnight in evolutionary terms. This sudden emergence of knowledge seems almost too rapid to be explained solely by natural human progression. Could these early civilizations have been nurtured intentionally, receiving guidance to reach levels of organization that would allow humanity to advance faster than evolution alone might permit? Even the structure of governance and religion shows patterns that are strikingly similar across unrelated cultures. Monarchies, priesthoods, social hierarchies, and moral codes arise independently in Egypt, China, India, and the Americas. Some dismiss this as a natural outcome of human social evolution. Yet when coupled with myths of gods descending from the sky, bringing laws, technology, and guidance, the repetition becomes curious. Are these similarities simply coincidental, or are they echoes of a blueprint, an alien design influencing collective human behavior? Consider art, literature, and mythology. Across time and geography, humans have depicted beings from the sky, cosmic battles, and encounters with strange entities. From cave paintings in France to ancient Mayan codices, from Hindu epics to African oral traditions, there is a recurring motif. The heavens are not empty, and beings from above shape human destiny. Could it be that human creativity itself is guided, subtly inspired by knowledge encoded in our consciousness or DNA, encouraging us to depict the truth we instinctively sense, but cannot yet fully understand? Trade and communication also seem to follow a pattern. Civilizations independently developed similar systems for measurement, currency, and engineering. Roads, aqueducts, and bridges appear with remarkable consistency across continents. Could these convergences be the result of human ingenuity alone, or might they reflect a shared influence, an underlying program guiding humanity toward coordinated progress, even when separated by oceans and millennia? Religion, again, offers another perspective. Nearly every major faith introduces the concept of divine law, morality, and order. Worship often involves obedience, reverence for the cosmos, and an understanding of human responsibility. Could these frameworks be subtle tools, embedded to guide collective behavior in ways that ensure social cohesion, moral development, and survival, all aligned with a plan set in motion by beings far older and more advanced than humanity? Even human conflict may play a role in this blueprint. Wars, revolutions, and struggles often accelerate technological and cultural progress. While they appear destructive, history shows that periods of intense conflict are frequently followed by rapid advancement in science, medicine, and infrastructure. Could these patterns, too, be part of a larger design, ensuring that humanity evolves not just physically and mentally, but socially, preparing for challenges that will shape its destiny? Architecture and urban planning offer additional clues. Across civilizations, we see repeated use of geometric patterns, sacred proportions, and alignments with celestial phenomena. From the Great Pyramid of Giza to the temples of Angkor Wat, from Machu Picchu to Stonehenge, human construction often reflects a harmony with the universe. Was this purely aesthetic or symbolic, or was it designed to connect humanity to knowledge and forces we are only beginning to understand? If civilization itself is part of an alien blueprint, then history is not just a record of human triumphs and failures. It becomes a story of gradual awakening, a narrative written not entirely by humans, but by those who designed the systems we inhabit. Social structures, moral codes, mythology, art, and technology may all be layers in a vast experiment, a plan that has guided humanity for millennia toward a purpose we are only beginning to perceive. As we continue, one question looms large. If our collective consciousness and civilizations carry traces of alien design, could humanity's future be predetermined? Or are we approaching a stage where the design is revealed, where we can finally understand our creators and the ultimate goal of the blueprint we inhabit? The next chapter will explore the implications of this idea, as we examine humanity's place in the cosmos and the potential destiny of a species shaped by forces beyond Earth's. If civilization itself carries the marks of an extraterrestrial blueprint, then the natural question becomes, what is humanity's ultimate purpose? Are we merely the product of design, destined to repeat cycles of rise and fall, or is there a far larger mission encoded within our biology, consciousness, and culture? To explore this, we must look not just at history, but at the trajectory of human potential, the advancement of knowledge, and the whispers of possibility that echo in every scientific and philosophical breakthrough. Throughout history, humans have always looked beyond Earth. From the earliest astronomers charting the stars to modern space exploration, we have been drawn to the heavens with a relentless curiosity. Is this desire purely instinctual, or could it have been instilled within us, a guiding force left by our creators? Perhaps our fascination with the cosmos is more than scientific ambition. It is encoded longing, a subtle reminder of our origin and a call toward our destiny. Consider the rapid technological advancement of the last century. Within a few generations, humanity progressed from primitive machinery to interplanetary exploration. Satellites orbit the Earth, rovers traverse Mars, and telescopes peer into the distant corners of the universe. Such explosive development raises questions about the pace of human evolution. Could it be that we are following an internal program, a path set in motion thousands of years ago, designed to awaken at the precise moment when our species would be capable of reaching beyond its home planet? If aliens created humanity, then perhaps our ultimate purpose is not survival, but expansion. We may have been designed to understand the universe, to explore other worlds, and to carry life and knowledge into the cosmos. This would reframe our history as preparation, a gradual education in both technology and consciousness, meant to equip us for a future where we transcend the limitations of Earth. Every scientific breakthrough, every philosophical inquiry, and every artistic endeavor could be steps toward this grander destiny. There are also ethical and spiritual implications. If humans were engineered with a purpose, then morality, empathy, and cooperation may have been integrated into our consciousness as tools for collective survival and advancement. These traits allowed humans to build civilizations, solve complex problems, and work together in ways no other species could achieve. Could it be that these moral imperatives were designed, not just evolved, to ensure we are capable of assuming a greater role in the universe? But what about the unknown? If we are approaching our destiny, could there be tests or thresholds we have yet to encounter? Ancient myths frequently describe trials, journeys, and transformations as part of humanity's evolution. Could these stories encode more than morality lessons? Could they be symbolic representations of challenges designed to awaken latent potential in humanity, preparing us for a moment when we confront our creators, or even become creators ourselves? Even the possibility of extraterrestrial contact is entwined with destiny. Reports of unidentified flying objects, unexplained signals, and mysterious phenomena suggest that the universe may not be as empty as we imagine. Perhaps our creators, having designed us to evolve, now await our readiness, observing from afar or even subtly guiding our development. If this is true, then humanity's ascent into the cosmos may not be entirely self-directed. It could be a carefully orchestrated awakening, a moment when we finally meet those who set our trajectory billions of years ago. This perspective also reframes our understanding of failure. Wars, disasters, and societal collapses, often seen as setbacks, may in fact be integral to our growth. Each challenge forces adaptation, learning, and innovation, pushing humanity to evolve faster than it would under ideal conditions. In this sense, adversity is not merely random. It may be a critical component of the design, a mechanism to ensure that when humanity reaches its cosmic destiny, we are prepared for the responsibilities that accompany it. Ultimately, the concept of cosmic destiny suggests that humanity's story is far from complete. We may have been designed to transcend the limitations of Earth, to become explorers, thinkers, and perhaps stewards of life itself. Every invention, every breakthrough in science, and every philosophical insight could be stepping stones toward a purpose far beyond survival, toward understanding, creation, and connection with the universe. As we approach the final chapter, we must confront the most profound question of all. If humanity was created by aliens and guided through history, what awaits us next? Are we ready to embrace the legacy embedded within our genes, minds, and civilizations? And when that moment arrives, will we recognize our creators, or will we become the creators ourselves, continuing the cosmic journey that began long before we walked the earths? As we reach the culmination of this exploration, the question becomes more urgent and profound than ever. If humanity was created by extraterrestrial beings, shaped through time by invisible hands, and guided toward knowledge and civilization, what comes next? Are we merely players in a cosmic experiment, or are we on the threshold of awakening to our true potential? Throughout history, we have glimpsed fragments of this grand design. Myths, religious texts, and ancient monuments have provided tantalizing clues, while the study of genetics and human consciousness has revealed mysteries that conventional science struggles to explain. Each discovery, each revelation, has pushed us closer to the understanding that we may not be the sole authors of our destiny. The evidence is subtle, yet pervasive. From the accelerated leaps in human intelligence to the sudden bursts of cultural innovation, from the precise astronomical alignments of ancient structures to the recurring motifs in mythology across the globe, humanity's path appears orchestrated with purpose. Our minds, our societies, and even our very biology seem to carry a signature that points beyond Earth, a signature that whispers of origins we are only beginning to comprehend. Yet this is not a story of passivity. Humanity has not been a passive recipient of design. We have questioned, explored, and pushed the boundaries of understanding. Science and philosophy, art and literature, technology and ethics, each represents the awakening of a species learning to navigate its own potential. Perhaps this awakening is the point. Perhaps the creators of humanity embedded not just knowledge, but the ability to seek, to question, and to grow independently. Our dreams, curiosity, and innovation suggest that we are ready for a new stage. The launch of space probes, the discovery of exoplanets, and our tentative steps toward interstellar communication may represent the fulfillment of a plan set in motion millennia ago. The universe has become not just our home, but our classroom and our frontier. And as we prepare to leave the cradle of Earth, we may be approaching the moment when we meet the architects of our existence, or when we step into the role of architects ourselves. The implications are staggering. If our creators exist, they may not be waiting to intervene, but to observe, test, or perhaps guide us subtly. If humanity is indeed a product of deliberate design, then every challenge we face, every breakthrough we achieve, and every philosophical or ethical question we confront may be part of a process intended to awaken us fully. The journey of humanity has been long, complex, and often tumultuous, but perhaps it was always leading to this point: the awakening of a species to its origin, its purpose, and its destiny. This awakening may also be internal. Just as our technology advances, so too does our understanding of consciousness, genetics, and the universe. The mysteries hidden within our DNA, the latent potential of our minds, and the patterns within our societies may be keys to unlocking abilities and knowledge that have been waiting for us all along. Every discovery we make about ourselves is a step closer to fulfilling the blueprint we were designed to complete. And yet, the ultimate question remains: what will humanity do with this knowledge? Will we rise to our potential and become stewards of life, explorers of the cosmos, and creators in our own right? Or will we falter, blinded by fear, arrogance, or misunderstanding? The future is uncertain, but the possibility is profound. The story of our creation is not merely a tale of origin. It is a challenge, an invitation, and a warning. As we conclude this journey, one thing becomes clear: humanity may have been created by extraterrestrial intelligence, but our destiny is now ours to shape. The whispers of the past, the echoes of the creators, and the secrets within our genes, minds, and civilizations all point to one truth: we are more than the sum of our biology. We are explorers, thinkers, and perhaps soon, creators. The awakening of humanity is not a moment in time. It is a process, a journey that began long before us and will continue long after. Our challenge, our opportunity, and our responsibility is to recognize the legacy within us, to understand the design that shaped us, and to step boldly into a future that may finally reveal the architects of our existence. The story of humanity is, at last, a story of awakening. From the stars we may have come, and to the stars we are destined to return. Whether we meet our creators, surpass them, or become creators ourselves, one thing is certain: the journey of human beings is far from over. It is only beginning.